Hello and welcome to Fuji Speedway in Japan on this Easter Sunday. Put your chocolate eggs down because we're about to go racing in the gold split of the VMS Pro Series by Coach Dave Academy. My name is Edward Hunter. Alongside me in the commentary box here for the second round of the gold split is Mr. Chris Buxton. So Chris, here we are, iconic circuit in Japan along with Suzuka. It's the two big ones, I guess, but it's Fuji that has an extensive history in sports car racing. We've raced here twice before in the Contender and splits last season, and now we return to Japan for what's set to be another really exciting round in our championship, Chris. Got to be looking forward to this one.
I very much am. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, brothers, and sisters. Welcome back to, as Ed says, the second round for the gold split for this incredible championship on the upcoming Le Mans Ultimate. What a great sim this is proving out to be. Still some kinks to iron out. It's looking absolutely spectacular. Fuji, I think, is such an underrated circuit. I really love this place. I haven't been out there, but I would love to one day. But it's such a wonderful circuit, and it's got really great flows. Kind of something for everything. It's got a lot of really twisty technical bits, and then a whacking great big straight that feels like it's going to go into Mount Fuji from the final turn, Panasonic, right up to turn 1 of Daiichi. We've got 22 cars that are with us in session. As you can see, we are just wrapping up the practice session before we head over to our qualifying session. It's a little bit more of a diminished field from last time out, where we saw the season start off in Imola. But looking at these practice times, it is Menard from Kreuzer, from Adamu, from Seppler, from Magudi on the Hypercars, and Giovanni, Rance, Bischoff, Weissenberger, and Barkley heading out our GT3s. Jack Howells, who won last time out in Imola in the Hypercars, joined us very late, so we do not know what pace he is currently looking to set. And Zach Doran, our GT3 championship leader, is not with us. So Marco Bischoff is in his Ferrari, so he is currently sitting third in the timings. Of course, these times aren't representative of an awful lot. There is the 66 Ferrari. So even though we may well have a slightly more diminished field, however, 22 cars is still going to give us plenty of action around this Japanese classic.
Yep, and just a reminder, it will be the GT3s that qualify first, followed, of course, by the Hypercars. It will have a sort of 15 minutes or so qualifying session to get both grids sorted, essentially. So, yeah, you're gonna have to wait a bit to get your Hypercar action, but it will be well worth it once they are unleashed. And as you say, some of our front runners in the championship, in particular, two championship leaders, Zach Duran very much on the back foot because he's not here. But interestingly, Liam Rance, who's had a lot of success in endurance racing in R-Factor 2, used to drive for, I think still does drive for Satellite Racing in the Virtual Endurance Championship, and he's won titles with them in GT3 in the Esports Endurance Series, which I also commentate on, which is why I know them. So, so it is no surprise to see Liam Rance so competitive in that practice session. Let's see if he can convert that into qualifying pace in a few short moments' time. Unlike last season, there's no dropped scores, so that does make the picture quite interesting. Now might be a good time actually to take a look at our GT3 standings before the qualifying gets underway. There you go. Zach Duran, of course, winner last time out on 25 points ahead of Marco Bischoff on 18. Julian Weisenberger is third ahead of William Giovanni, Juha-Maki Yupi, Masic Kostic, Nico Barclay, Adrian Kabaki, Betchelor Neto, and Aaron De Batista is in rounding out the top 10 on a single point. Yet to get on the scoring board are Gustav Schubert, Jerome Mitra, Nick Dealey, Marcus Nug, Rune Babears, Jeremy Leitas, Maxime Vendler, and Masic Kostic. It's slightly confusing. I thought I said Kostic's name twice there, but maybe I'm getting mixed up.
That is Kasperczyk. I recognise that name. I've enjoyed Marche Kasperczyk's company before. Looks like the GT3 qualifying is now underway. So yeah, I'm glad. I always try and get people's names right. As I say, Kasperczyk I recognise from previously, but there are several names. I'm glad you've just run them past me, because there were several of them I was looking at in almost horror. Thinking, how the hell do I say this? So I will try my best to get them right. So thank you.
Don't worry, that doesn't last. If my experience lasts, then I'm going to go by.
If you're anything like me, you start off saying a name one way and it changes every single time I try and say it. For some of the more complicated ones, I have actually had it before where I've actually had to say, look, I'm sorry, it's car number 6. I can't get this right.
Well, when so many use similar numbers, if it's one manufacturer that a lot of the tip drivers have gone for, then numbers aren't necessarily easy to come apart. Here is William Giovanni in the Valentino Rossi number 46 BMW Team WRT car. And Giovanni, of course, the Italian, was in the top 4 in his home race at Imola. You see Mount Fuji in the background. Unlike you, Chris, I have actually been to Mount Fuji, but I was free, so I don't really remember it all that well. It was a while ago for me, to put it mildly, in like the late 90s. But anyway, so Giovanni then is about to start.
You can shut up. If you were 3 in the late 90s, cars were still being fed by coal when I was 3. So.
You say that there are people listening right now who think that I sound ancient. I know that my Cub Scouts regularly make fun of how much older I am. But if you're a Cub Scout leader, that is pretty much guaranteed, since you can't really be a Cub Scout leader without being older than the kids. So it comes with the territory. Sad to say, as William Giovanni starts his first flying lap, swings it in through the hairpin into Coca-Cola, well over the curb though, and that's going to compromise his exit all the way through our 100R.
He does, so just coming through turn 5 to the exit of 100R, down through the gears into the hairpins at turn 6, just rides over the curb. These GT3s ride the curves a little bit more comfortably than the Hypercars, not by much. They're still very low slung and very stiff in chassis. Through 300R, turns 8 and 9, then down through the gears once again for Dunlop corner, turn 10, into the very slow chicane, turn 11 and 12. The BMW very loose for William Giovanni, sliding around quite a bit. So 13 and 14 now, coming up to next corner. Ride the curb on the inside line, let the car wander over to the right, and swing it through turn 15. Get the car settled. Again, the BMW fighting him at every opportunity. Again, very slow uphills. It is slightly cambered, the final corner, Panasonic corner. Then it is on the gas for eternity and towards the start-finish line for the first time to be put on the board. Let us see where that puts Giovanni. A 1:39.335, the first time of the night. Weisenberger and Barclay just half a second behind. There is Liam Rant, as we can see. So, what as the times all coming in, Giovanni still holding that top time with the 1:39.335. Nico Barclay, the next closest time with a 39.764. Everybody's got plenty of laps ahead of them. We are looking at Marco Bischoff at the moment, second in the championship, his main championship rival. As we said, Zach Thoren not with us tonight, so he's not obviously going to be challenging to maintain his championship lead, unless he arrives very quickly. As far as we know, we are not expecting Zach Thoren to appear. So Marco Bischoff currently sits 5th in the time. He's just half a second off the top spot at the moment with a 39.895 to his name. Ferraris doing pretty well at the top of the tree, although I say the BMW that holds the top spot at the moment in the hands of William Giovanni, the number 46. It's Marco Bischoff's fastest in Sector 1, personal best in Sector 2. As you can see in the timings in the bottom right-hand corner, the purple indicating a track best sector, green being personal best. And you see what he is able to do in his final sector. Again, you see a slide there just as he's committing to the corner. He does a really, really uncomfortable final turn for turn 16. And we will see then what he gets on the board, or does he improve, I should say, from his position. He improves in time but not position. Remains in fifth with a 139.649. Liam Runt in the Aston Martin, yet to get a representative time on the table. So a couple of tenths off the top spot. That was 39.335 by William Giovanni. What can the treble 7 Aston Martin do as he comes through? That is turn 13. Now up towards net, all the way uphill. Quite a steep climb. And again, you just see that the GT3 struggling to maintain a smooth turn. You just see the nose committing, straightening, as they are struggling to find bits of grip and keep it on the road in the way they would like. Towards the line then, Liam Runt's the last GT3 to get a time on the board. What does he get there? That blocks him in 7th position with a 40, well, was briefly 7th, just knocked down one more, so that puts Liam Runt in 8th with a 1:42.50. Oh, okay, so I've just spotted in chat, actually, that we're being pointed out that I've been saying we and Giovannini. That's quite an unusual name. You know, obviously sticking with Giovanni, there's an extra ni at the end of it, so thank you for that. I probably won't get that right whatsoever throughout the turn of the broadcast, but I will do my best. We have a Mustang, Juha Malkioppi. This is a name I've seen before. Again, I'm probably not getting that name right either. I seem to recall I didn't get your name right before. Into turn 10, into Dunlop Corner then. So the prowling Mustang starting to deploy its horses, getting back up through the very roller coaster section that is the second half of the lap. And what can the Mustang get on the board? The lead Mustang at the moment is Nico Barkley, who is now in 3rd with that 39.512. And Giovannini. There we go. That's I can get it right. Still that 139.335 at the top of the board. What can Juha Malkioppi get on the board? Currently 10th with a 40.821. That's not an improvement. It was a 41.111. All the ones in that particular time. Oh wow! You saw that Ferrari just snap back straight there for Marco Bischoff. You can see there's all yellow sectors on his side, as it is for Adrian Kabaki in the BMW, the number 46 car. Second of our BMWs behind Giovannini. And again, it's just sliding their way through 15. Because of the undulation change, it is difficult to keep these cars settled, and that is very, very wide into the final turn. That is potentially going to compromise Adrian Kabaki's exit from that final turn, and you carry that mistake a very, very long way. He's already got off the racing line. Is he coming into the pits? Yes, he is. So he's ditching that particular run. Probably going to get a fresh set of boots on. Although we are getting to the end of the GT3 qualifying session. So the GT3s don't have all 25 minutes to themselves. The 25 minutes is split between our two contingents. So the GT3s have the first 10 minutes or so. So we are looking at Belchior Nito, also in the 777 Aston Martin. Again, because we haven't got custom liveries as yet available to us, we will have several cars with the same number, which isn't going to be confusing whatsoever. There's our lead Aston Martin at the moment in the form of Belchior Nito. Oh, and again, just the car's getting very uncomfortable on the exit of Panasonic Corner. Bringing that one in though. Or is he? Yeah, it might be complete. Oh, no, he did. Liam Rance trying to improve, though, on his final run of the qualifying session. Does he improve? He doesn't. Well, he improves in time, but not position. So he remains in 8th position. So the top 8 cars separated by just a single second. Very nicely done. Jerome Matrol in the Cadillac, our sole Cadillac representative in the GT3 field. Cadillac. God's sake, thank you, production. I'm glad one of us is paying attention. There's a Cadillac in the hyperclass field. That's what confused me. That's a Corvette. I should be taken out and shot for that. The Cadillac GT3s were not particularly successful, and they were wildly different to this. Also, at least I got their nationality right. Good grief. Nick Domino in production is going to enjoy tormenting me about that one. Oh, and that's a slide there from Matrol. Did not get the entrance to turn 15 right whatsoever. Flash of the lights, yeah. You did not enjoy that at all, did you, Jerome? That's the qualifying session now brought to an end for the GT3s. Oh, is he going to have another go? No, I was going to say, you're not entirely sure you're allowed to do that. So the GT3 qualifying session is now brought to a close. I think Liam Rance is still on circuit, but not unless he is on a push lap. Which, if he started his push lap before the 15 minutes had begun, oh, he is on a push lap. So no, he is coming back in. No, he is coming back in. So then the GT3 qualifying session will now be concluded. Our hypercars will be ready to go, but they will not be released from the pits until 10 minutes is left on the timer, so they do not have a timed advantage to the GT3s. GT3s have 10 minutes plus enough time to finish their laps. The hypercars will have 10 minutes plus as long to finish their laps. So same amount of time for both categories. So it's William Giovannini gets the pole spot with that that opening gambit, that 139.335, his first time lap is enough to secure him pole in the BMW. Marco Bischoff joins him on the front row of the GT3s in the Ferrari. On row 2 for GT3s is Nico Barkley alongside Adrian Kabaki in the Mustang and the BMW respectively. Then it is Julian Weissenberger in the Mustang alongside Belchior Neto in the Aston Martin. So that is row 3 for the GT3s. Row 4 has got Nick Dealey in the Ferrari, as also with Liam Rance. We've seen him just crossing the line in his Aston Martin. That is row 4 of the GT3s. Then a name I am likely to get wrong, I apologize in advance, is going to be Eric Nonnenmacher in the Ferrari alongside Juha Malkioppi in the Mustang, and then our sole Corvette. Again, it's going to take me a while to live that down. I'll end up bringing that up myself. I was calling this a Cadillac. I should be absolutely ostracized for that. Is Jerome Matrol not getting the horses galloping quite the way he needs to move his way up the GT3 field. So that is our 11 GT3 representatives that are with us for this race. So we now just have to wait for the 10 minutes point to arrive to us in timing. Before the hypercars will be released. They're likely still in their garages. I can't imagine any of them are actually on circuit. In fact, none of them are on circuit at the moment. I can see they're all still in their pit garages at the moment. But we have got a couple more of our hypercars with us. We have got 12 hypercars with us. Jack Howells, obviously very, very late joining us. We do not know where he was sitting in the timing relative to everybody else in the practice session. But Jack Howells currently top of the championship, having won at Imola 2 weeks ago. Christian Benani in the Porsche 963 is second in the championship, and he is not with us tonight. So give Jack Howells a little bit of breather potentially. In fact, we'll go over championship standings whilst we're waiting for our hypercar contingent to come out. So there it is, Jack Howells from the win last time out. Christian Bernani in second in the Porsche. That is Adam, I think it's Sapler, also in the Ferrari 499. Pascal Gering in fourth in the lead Peugeot, with Barnabas Fazekas in the next of the Peugeots in fifth. Lucas Kreuzer in sixth. Jimmy Maynard in 7th, with Francesco Adomu in 8th. And rounding out the top 10 is Martin Maguli and Romain Merchand in the Porsche and Toyota, respectively. Outside of the points at the moment, Yanis Beguera, Roman Freirom, who is listed there in the number 3 Cadillac. He has actually chosen the blue one, much to production's annoyance. So he's already surely that's got to be a joke disqualification, production. You can't be defying the mighty Nick Domino. Can't be doing it. Then Marvin Bootsin alongside Lexi Taylor, Olivier Demiliens, Sachin Sobers, Davide Chiesa, and Tobias Blumschein yet to get on the point scoring, and now our hypercars are on circuit. Like I say, not all of our hypercars that we saw last time out are with us, so we have 12 of them that are now joining us on this wonderful circuit at Fuji. Just catching up with. So we're riding on board with Stefan Kühler. Again, hopefully pronouncing that somewhat correctly. He's actually one of our reserve drivers. He's gone with the Alpine. And so you can't see an awful lot. This onboard camera is not very well positioned. There's Jack House just coming out of the pits. So again, leaving it a little bit late. Romain can't be here tonight due to French rain. That's unfortunate. Thank you for the update on that. Glad to see people joining in chat. Please do make yourselves known. We'll do our best to interact with you as much as possible. This is a longer race for tonight, 2.4 hours of Fuji. So this is the first endurance race of the season, of which there are 3. That's a 9-round season as Jimmy Menard leaves that final corner. Wow, I think it's one of the Porsches giving it a big old wiggle ahead of him. It's Martin Magudi that is still weaving. That's quite a lot of weaving. Not usually what you do on your first push lap, but if you feel the tyres are not biting in, then you do what you need to do. Jimmy Menard then into Daichi, turn 1. Down through the gears now, hard stamp on the gas through turn 2 that is fairly non-existent for pretty much anything you drive around Fuji. Down through the gears for Coca-Cola corner, turn 3. Don't wander too wide. Whilst you have got runoff area there, you then are straight away into this long right-hander, 100R, turns 4 and 5. Now up to the hairpin, turn 6. Keep it steady. You do want to run it, not necessarily right out to the line on the exit of turn 7. Turn 8, 9 or 300R, pretty much non-existent. Down to Dunlop, which again is the slowest part of the corner. There. Slowest part of the circuit, beg your pardon. Turn 10, turn 11, turn 12, now 13. Hopefully, Maguli does not get in the way of Jimmy Menard. He's most certainly on a push lap at the moment. Into next corner, turn 15. Again, the whole roller coaster feel of this circuit still very much in play through the final turn. And Jimmy is actually going to be picking up a bit of a slipstream from the Porsche ahead. So we're now getting some times on the board. Demeliers, Seppler, Fazekas, Sobers have got times on the board. What about Jimmy Menard? We follow him through the lap. As a 126.995 sees him currently to the top of the tree. I thought he was dethroned already, but no, Jimmy Menard as setting the benchmark there. Very nicely done. Jack Howells, as we now switch to in the next Ferrari, as we said, won last time out in Imola. Started as he means to go on. A little bit off of the ultimate pace, but then that's, judging by everyone else's initial laps, that is quite a statement of intent from Jimmy Menard, who finished 7th last time out, 3rd of our Ferraris in Imola. What can Jack Howells do? 26.995 the target, 127.473 his time slots him into 2nd at the moment, just under half a second behind. Can he find himself? There is Martin Magudi. We saw him giving his tyres a right old workout on the start finish. He's still actually being chased by Jimmy Menard as they are running their way up through turns 13, 14. Now next corner, turn 15. That's the tail of the Porsche trying to let go, but Martin has that very much under control. What can he get on the board? No time yet for that was again flirting with the outside. Oh, Jimmy's getting a good old toe again. Why not? Well, the first 5 on the board are all Ferraris, or that was until the Sobers and the Toyota disrupted that. As Maguli in the Porsche gets up into second. Jimmy Menard sets the new pole time of 26.855. Lucas Kreuzer in his Toyota now getting involved. Start off second off the ultimate pace. There is Roman Freirem in the Sol Cadillac in the field. That's an exploratory line on the outside of turn 1. Stefan Kuhler, that is one of our reserve drivers. It's going to the Alpine, the Sol Alpine, the Sol of the French brand, represented in our hypercar field. A couple of seconds to find for wants to be challenging those top spots, but yeah, there's a reserve driver. It can be a little bit forgiven for not necessarily being quite on ultimate pace just yet. We'll see what he's able to do. Freirem went into the pit. I think recovered himself back to the pits and is straight back on circuit again. There is Francesco Adamu that is up into second with a 27.224. So people trying to close in on that storming pace from Jimmy Menard, but not able to do so. Not more than 0.3 of a second that Adamu has to himself. There is Jack Howells in 6th currently with his 27.473. Where is he? Now he's just coming through turn 10 into Dunlop, into the chicane, blowing his way through a level 12. And again, you can just see how uncomfortable these cars can feel. On the circuit, I think altitude-wise is quite high, but a lot of these technical circuits, technical sections rather, are very slow. So the actual aerodynamic downforce plays no real part in the overall grip of the car. Out of Panasonic corner for Jack Howells. Let's say he's going to finish this one. Does he improve? 127.473 his time. It's not an improvement. A few hundredths away from his previous lap. So at the moment, it's Ferrari at the top of the roost, with Menard and Adamu leading the way. Kreuzer the lead Toyota. As we now look at Olivier Demolien in the Peugeot, currently in 11th. What improvement can he find?
Well, what indeed? I guess we'll have to find out. Hello again, Chris.
Hello,
and everybody
welcome back.
Watching at home, or wherever they may be watching on this Easter Sunday, is Demolien's somewhat unfortunate. We used to call him Demolition Demoliens, but he seems to have belied that nickname, and he's actually been one of the more consistent drivers in the gold split, it must be said. Down there in 11th at the moment, but 1.3 seconds off the pace. That isn't actually too far compared to last season. So even the drivers near the back of it are still making progress. Speaking of which, here's Stefan Kohler. Not the most fancied car, the Alpine, is it? in the hypercar class, but it's interesting to see because Jules Neal in the Platinum Split also sort of gambled on the Alpine, was actually running in the top 8 at Imola before he made that late stop for dries, which turned out to be very much the wrong call with only 15 minutes left in the race, sadly, for him, and Nikolai Hutrishki as well, who ended up just getting stuck in traffic as well, more than anything. But it's one of those things when the weather's changeable, you tend to take a lot of risks. There's Martin Mergeli still trying to get back into the top 3 to get at the front of the second row of the grid, but at the moment it's Menard and Adamu in the Ferraris that are very much setting the pace, especially Menard, of course. Where is Menard in the Gold Hypercar Championship? He's 7th, isn't he, Jimmy Menard? So he didn't have the greatest of showings at Imola, so this would be a big boost for him to start on the front row ahead of Adamu. I think everybody was sort of expecting to also be one of the front runners too. He finished behind him, of course, in 8th, didn't he, Francesco Adamu in Imola. Then, as we look at Mergeli, 4 attempts down in the first sector, not looking particularly good. He's the only one that's really gambled on the Porsche 963, but the middle sector, you saw he was really, really quick. Just through the Dunlop chicane, had the car really, really hooked up and able to turn in quite nicely and very responsively. In this final sector, he comes this could be an improvement. It may not necessarily be enough to get onto pole position, but it might get him that little bit closer, at least with 20 seconds to go. He's not going to have too many more goes at this.
No, indeed. So the checker flag will come out in 7 seconds, ready or not. So, of course, anyone that is on, well, indeed, 27.243 slots. Martin Mergeli up into 3rd place with, well, 19 thousandths behind Francesco Adamo. Nicely done indeed. So, any checker flag is now out. Anybody on a lap may well finish it. This is not looking too strong for Lucas Kreuzer. Again, another yellow sector. This puts him half a second down. So this is not likely to improve on a still impressive 4th place at 27.303 in our lead Toyota. Adam Sapler is not improving, nor is Olivier Demoliens. He will not be improving from 11th place in the Peugeot. So just only just shy of a second from ultimate pace.
Ooh.
Green sector for Mergeli, though.
You see, turning into Dunlop there, he had to have 2 goes at turning it in there. You can see that's why he's 32 thousandths down on his best there. And so, oh, look at the car. Just, you can tell the tyres just starting to get away from him here. But of course, he didn't really have time to get into the pit to put a fresh set on because the session was about to end if he didn't carry on. So at the final corner comes Mergeli. Is this going to get him onto the front row? It's very, very close between himself and Adamu, but I think Menard has almost certainly secured pole position here. To the line comes the Hungarian. What's it going to be? Will it still be 3rd? No, it's 2nd. There we go. He jumps by 6 thousandths of a second there. Fantastic final effort from Martin Mergeli there. So the Hungarian, Roman Fravrom decides to kiss the barrier on the way into the pit. It's an interesting pit entry. It does tend to catch people out, surprisingly.
Whether he's not happy at his choice of car or his performance, who knows? But he's trying to repaint the outside wall blue. Maybe he's trying to hide the fact that he's in the blue Cadillac and not the yellow one that he was signed up with. Who knows?
That's not going to change the color of the car, though. That's just going to put dents on it. But yeah, I suppose the race is about to start anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, now might be a good opportunity to go through our grid then. Jimmy Menard takes pole position from Martin Mergeli there on the front row. On the 2nd row, it's Francesco Adamu in the 2nd of our 4 rows with Lucas Kreuzer just behind him. Adam Zapla will start in 5th on row 3 with Jack Howells for company. Howells, of course, championship leader. Barnabas Fazekas will start 7th ahead of Sachin Sobers in 8th. That makes up row 4. Then row 5, it's Romain Freirom with Marvin Butzin just behind him, rounding out the top 10. On row 6, it's Olivier Demoliens with Stefan Kohler just behind in 12th in the Alpine. Then in GT3, William Giovannini starts on pole position with Marco Bischoff just behind him on the front row. Then it's Nico Barclay in the Mustang in 3rd with Adrian Kabacki in 4th. Julian Weisenberger up there in the championship. He starts 5th on the grid with Belchior Neto in 6th just behind him. Then on row 10, it's Nick Dealey and Liam Rance making his debut in the series. Eric Nonenmacher will start 21st on row 11 with Yukamaki Yupi for company. Then rounding out the rear of the field, it's France's very own Jerome Mitral in the Corvette. So a very competitive grid in prospect, Chris.
Very much so. I wrongly called that a Cadillac earlier. I expect to be quartered.
I have done the same. I have done the same thing in some of my first races as well, where
teams and drivers go to the grid for a race start.
Cadillacs when it clearly had a Corvette on screen, and vice versa as well. So both begin with C, both American manufacturers. So
that's our excuse, and we are sticking to it.
I'm sure General Motors. Won't mind, but everyone else will.
Well, they're fairly well represented, certainly with the Mustang being with us. But yeah, a few notable names missing from both fields, the GT3 and also the Hypercar field, not least of which Zach Doran's GT3 Mustang not on field with us. Martin Kasperschik's McLaren, one of the few, if not only McLaren in the GT3 field for this division. Not with us this time out.
And no Pascal Gehrig in the Peugeot 9X8, who was 4th last time out as well.
Yes, indeed. So who's missing from the... just
We
looking
know
down
Romain
the list.
Marchand, we heard in the chat that Marchand isn't here because of the French rail transport system letting him down. So he's apparently probably watching on his phone, stuck in a log jam, essentially, in the middle of France somewhere while the race is going on, which is obviously frustrating. I mean, Romain Marchand, fantastic driver, the Frenchman, as we've seen time and time again, was actually in that fight for victory for quite a while in Le Mans in the final contender race of last season. So as it becomes the gold split, Romain, with that 10th place to his name in Imola, he is relegated to being a spectator here, but I'm sure we'll see him back for round 3 at, of course, Bahrain on the 4th of May in a week or two's time.
What's worse is I read that comment as French rain, thinking that he had weather trouble rather than French rail. So again, my apologies for that. As we can now see the race.
Formation lap has started.
That's a weird thing to say. We're still gaming outdoors. It shouldn't be too big an issue. But yeah.
Well, Francesco Adamu was really keen to get on with it. Just absolutely binned the clutch nearly into the back of Jimmy Menard. That wouldn't have been embarrassing whatsoever. Right, so the field now rolling. So 2.4 hours of Fuji now awaited. So you can argue that qualifying is not necessarily the be-all and end-all of these endurance races. However, you still want to know where you sit in the pecking order. See those bright yellow lights from Martin, particularly in the
Green flag, green flag.
Starts away.
It's already happened as Neto immediately nets a penalty, but it's Menard that has made a brilliant getaway at the start as Mergely trying to get alongside at the outside as they go into that first hairpin. To the outside goes Martin Mergely, very, very late on the brakes in the Porsche. Menard decides to play it safe, has still got the inside as the Toyota Cruiser goes well off track there, and it's Mergely who has snatched the lead in the Porsche with the 3 Ferraris nipping at his heels behind him. Giovannini, meanwhile, has taken the lead, held on to the lead from Bischoff in GT3.
He has indeed. That was a very... Oh, no, that's trouble for Vasikis in the Peugeot. So facing the wrong way at the start, right way down behind the GT3 field. Never ideal. Oh, we've got... That's Butson. That's in amongst the GT3. So, you would think that they've come together. Oh, he's trying to work his way through the GT3s. The GT3 is doing exactly the right thing, staying predictable and sticking to their own line whilst the Hypercars went their way through. But Giovannini and Bischoff and Kabaki staying in their qualifying positions, along with Barkley and Rao. Liam Rance has climbed a few positions, bringing the Aston Martin. He was 8th, I believe, in the qualifying session. The Aston is a little bit uncomfortable coming up towards turn 13. But it's BMW from Ferrari, from BMW, the top 3 GT3s. Is now Porsche leading the 3 Ferraris, and Toyota at top of your Hypercar field. What a start for Martin Mercader.
Yeah, that was really unexpected. I thought Menard had him covered then. In fact, Jack Howells has made a brilliant getaway too to get past both of the Ferraris ahead of him, of Adamu and Menard, as Menard now trying to fight back here against the man looking to snatch the championship. No, he is the championship leader, of course. Jack Howells up the inside he goes. Menard side by side. We're nearly going to go 3 wide rail Ferraris into Coca-Cola corner. Who is going to prevail and come out on top? Is it the 50 or the 51? The 50 has got the inside of Menard, so Menard retakes that second position. And now Howells has got to deal with Adamu all over again, because he is closed up in all of this too, as Howells back up the inside into the hairpin. Fantastic back and forth racing as Cruiser now fancies a piece of the action.
And right behind Lucas Grover is Adam Sapler as well. So do they know it's 2.4 hours long? They are absolutely going for it.
2 rows and 2 wide.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, I'll be quite happy if they're going to do this for 2.4 hours. One, I imagine they'll be absolutely knackered. 2.4 should be in the bin by that point. But hey, who cares? What a way for it to go. Mergely is gone. He's using the opportunity perfectly in the Porsche to build up a bit of a lead for himself. 2.4 seconds at the moment, as these 3 Ferraris are all arguing for their bit of real estate. They do need to settle into a bit of a rhythm. They really ought to be working together. They may well be in the same machinery. They are not realistically teammates. They are going to be gunning for their own advantage as much as possible. If they were teammates, the team manager would be absolutely screaming at them at the moment. A little bit further back, Adam Sapler and Sutton Sobers are looking at second position. It looked like Sapler was about to run into the back of Lucas Kreuzer. Towards the tail end of the Hypercar field. That's Marvin Button, who we know has had a bit of a spin. Stephen Kohler is a Hypercar reserve driver. Towards the tail end of the GT3 field, Eric Nonamaker is trying to fend off the advances of Nick Didi, both of them being Ferraris, with Jerome Patrol at the back of the field in the Soul Corvette. So the GT3s look like they're settling into a rhythm. The Hypercars need to kind of get that same memo that it is 2.4 hours, not a sprint race, gentlemen. Although indeed in saying that, Mergley has suddenly lost a second of his lead.
Yeah, now Howells has sort of released himself a little bit, and Mergley, I think, perhaps is maybe thinking about conserving virtual energy as the rear hangs out a little bit through nets as well. Maybe now he knows the championship leader's catching him. He has started to slow down a little bit. We are seeing potentially a bit of divergence on tyre choice here, but Menard has gone for the hards, whereas Howells and Mergley both on the mediums. That would explain Howells' progress up the order, and Mergley now trying to conserve these mediums after building that lead earlier. So that does track with what we've seen so far. But of course, the virtual energy, the fuel, as well as the tyres are going to become big factors here. Now, of course, as you say, the three Ferraris, logically, you would think, oh, well, they should just work together to stop the race. But of course, Jack Howells is the championship leader. Menard and Adamu do not want him to get away. So they're not just going to settle in third and fourth and see what happens. They're going to try and get back into second to be first up the road if Mergley hits trouble.
Absolutely right. Is that a GT3 coming into the pits already?
It's one of the accidents.
Yeah, is that the pit stop already? It is.
Neto for his penalty because he jumped the start.
Oh, he jumped the start. Oh, that's 2.4 hours and he jumped the start. That's got to be really, really soul-destroying. But still plenty of time for him to make up that mistake. However, in a field this talented, that is going to be very, very, very hard. He's just going to have to bide his time because he can't stop. It's a drive-through penalty. So, there's no changing of tyres or strategy or anything like that. He's just going to have to kind of settle into his rhythm and hope that he can close in that particular gap. So riding on board with Juha Mäkijärvi in the Ford Mustang, the bright yellow Mustang in the field, trying to close in on Julian Weissenberger, who himself on the back of the Aston Martin Liam Rance. Liam started in 8th position. He was in the GT3 field, so a decent start, but the GT3 is now settling into their rhythm. So I'm sure Juha Mäkijärvi will take advantage of any mistake he's able to force on Julian Weissenberger.
Weissenberger's, of course, is third in the championship, let's not forget. So him and Bischoff have got a great opportunity, haven't they, to gain a load of points on the second round if they can both get on the podium. Bischoff currently a second behind Giovannini, who could also well become a bit of a title threat because he has that fourth place to his name from the last race at the first race of the season at Imola. So yeah, it's Weissenberger that's really in a bit of a trickier position in that Mustang because he's got Mäkijärvi, who is no slouch, all over the back of him, and then Liam Rance, who made that brilliant getaway, as you say, gaining about 3 or 4 positions on the first lap, and is now sort of starting to fall away from the back of Nico Barclay, the One Eco driver, who of course got a very, very good reputation behind him. As now we see Mäkijärvi tucking right into the back of the similar Ford Mustang ahead of him. It's the 44 versus the 88. As we see Rance going a little bit wider through that first hairpin Daichi. May give him a better exit, but it does leave him a little bit vulnerable at the apex there. So that to me looks like Liam Rance trying to sort of take qualifying lines to try and keep Nico Barclay inside. But Barclay is also catching up to the back of Kabaki in the fight for third too. So very much a lot left to play for us now. Jimmy Menard, our pole sitter, starting to get a bit frustrated at looking at the back of Jack Howells in that 51 Ferrari. He wants the 50 to be back on top here, and Mergley is just watching this all play out on the rearview mirrors, but you can see the first of the GT3 traffic on the horizon. That's almost certainly Neto after that early drive-through penalty that's about to be dispatched by the Hypercar field as Howells goes well over the curve into 100R there.
Yeah, indeed, Beltois. Neto is going to be very, very popular. Really quickly. And is Aston Martin. Now, what I've noticed is every car is seemingly really struggling in the slower corners. They get very, very twitchy. They don't take those corners quite smooth. So if we stay on board with Neto, we come down the gears into turn 10. Won't see it necessarily here because you're immediately then into turn 11. And then you saw that slight twitch where the tail is just trying to get away, as Neto doing a good job staying out of the way of our lead Hypercars. That's a Dami and Kreuzer that has just come through.
Menard is gearing up a move here, Chris.
Howes is on Mergely as well, so our top three now reunited. Still a bit of a gap between Menard and Adamu, but Mergely now, his lead absolutely crushed.
Yeah, here we go. So this could well be strategic from Martin Mergely, but he could genuinely be struggling then. And actually, we've got different tyre allocations that James Hunt just texted me in the commentary chat. He says Martin Mergely's on 4 medium tyres, Jack Howell's also on 4 mediums. Jimmy Menard has got left side hard tyres and right side mediums. Francesco Adamu has hard front left and medium on the other 3 corners of the car. Lucas Kreuzer has hards on the fronts and mediums on the rears, and Adam Zappler has mediums all the way around. And he's listing the rest of them as I speak, and there we go, up the inside goes Menard on one of the Ferraris. I suspect that's either Nick Dealey or the other.
I think that is Nick Dealey that they have just worked their way past. But, Nick Dealey's going to be... Yeah, he's still got a lot of people around him.
Hello. Did Mergely hit the Corvette there? That looked a little tight.
It did look a bit close, didn't it? But the Corvette didn't spin off into oblivion, so I'm assuming then that all is well there. If that is the Corvette,
that escaped drone Mitchell, isn't it? In that course.
Well, there was no contact according to production, so they managed to avoid rearranging the back of the Corvette. But yeah, Mergely got to be keeping an eye behind him. I know we have a very, very long way to go, but he's either opting just to kind of let the laps turn. He knows realistically where his pace lies, so he could be opting just, he knows maybe that Jimmy Menard and Jack Howes are a bit quicker than him. So Mergely, where is he? The championship, he's 9th from that second position finish last time out. So he knows he's got championship front runners right behind him, despite his own very, very superb start. More of that's the other Ferrari, so it was Nick Dealey that we've initially seen.
Mackie beats Trump Weisenberger. Look, he's up to 6th then.
He has, yes, good spot. So the yellow Mustang ahead of the black and gold example from Julian Weisenberger. And that is still Liam Vance they are trying to chase. The gap just stabilising between the 2 Mustangs and Aston Martin. Here he comes, the rest of the Hypercar leaders. Right behind, you just see at the back of the shot the next Hypercars.
Oh!
Contact!
Cruise around.
Nearly collapsing Zappler as well. So yeah, Lucas Kreuzer getting a bit tangled up with the lead Ferrari. I think is it Nico?
It can't be his partners in the Mustang. And look at this. Mergely's under attack from Jack Howells, and Menard has really lost out in the traffic here. Mergely here has to defend the middle of the road, but Jack Howells is already up the inside. There's a move going on immediately in front of him at the GT3 class between the two. Oh, the BMW and the Mustang, who spread either side, and the Ferraris go down the middle, but Mergely completely lost out there. He just came upon them at exactly the wrong moment, and both Howells and Menard up into 1st and 2nd.
Oh, well capitalised then from our Hypercar frontrunners.
Trying to get 3rd.
So it was then. So, crikey. Again, the GT3 just need to stick to their line. Let the faster car make their way past. The Hypercars have got acres of downforce as our Mustangs are at it again. It is quite terrifying being the slower car when you are absolutely surrounded by especially with such a big speed difference as Hypercar to GT3. If it was LMP2 to GT3 or LMP3 perhaps, there's not such a huge speed difference there, so it's not quite as terrifying. But when you've got these absolute bullets flying past you, you can't help but kind of try and make your own car a little bit narrower. You do that by trying to tense your shoulders. Of course, it makes no difference, but you do it because you've got these absolutely, flying in these hypercars flying past you. You inevitably just think, oh God, don't do anything wrong, but you just focus on your own line, as we just saw Weissenberger go a little bit too deep off the end of the last corner. Wow, Jack Howells feeling the need to defend that inside line from Jimmy Menard, the 50 Ferrari, trying to make a move out of the race lead. Can't get it done. Martin Merkley just sitting there in the slipstream. Yeah, you carry on, fellas. I'm going to preserve my tyres a little bit more. So as we were saying before, Merkley and Howells have got the same tyre setup. They're all, mediums all round. Jimmy Menard is slightly contrary to that. His left sides are hard, the right side are mediums. So that, of course, have its pros and cons. Corners like this aren't a passing opportunity anyway. But that could potentially limit the passing opportunities for Jimmy Menard as Merkley gets very close to the back of the Ferrari there. The Porsche seems to have that a bit of an advantage in the twistier stuff than the Ferraris, it seems. We saw that in qualifying, didn't we? This was the section that Martin Merkley was really, really strong. So that is most certainly helping keep the Porsche in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no reason to panic despite losing those two positions in the traffic for Martin Merkley. You're also about to see it once again down this back straight. Howells can't really escape from Menard because the slipstream down the start-finish straight is so strong. You see Merkley's actually lost out a little bit. He's got a little bit of a distant view of the 50 of Jimmy Menard about to attack Jack Howells. Who is going to get to the apex first? It's Howells moving all the way to the inside to defend. Menard is going to try and go clean around the outside into Daichi. It's side by side. Are they about to make contact? No, they leave almost enough room, but not quite there. Led by Jack Howells, who shuts the door firmly but fairly, and Jimmy Menard has to stay behind yet again, and this allows Merkley to catch up to the both of them. So Howells having to drive so defensively prevents him from escaping up the road, even if he's got the pace at the moment.
Barkley in third in our GT3s with Adrian Kabaki in the BMW.
Barclay's got on the podium then, he's got through.
He has, yes. The bright blue Mustang has shown what he is made of, staying very much out of the way of the Peugeot, now coming through to put a lap on them. That still looked very, very close. And here we go again. Our Hypercar 3, our lead 3, are back together. So the Porsche, this seems to be where the Porsche was a little bit stronger, maybe a bit better on the brakes. That allows them to close back in, but in the straight line is where the Ferrari has its advantage, or regains its advantage. But then they end up fighting with each other, and allows Merkley to close back in. They are extending the gap back to themselves and Francesco Darmo in fourth. That now 3.3 seconds. Again, that could all come to absolutely nothing depending on how the pit stops go. So, yeah, there's only one way to find out how this race is going to unfold, and that is stick with us. What is shaping up to be a fantastic endurance. And there again, Howells feeling the need to defend that inside line. Menard, is he going to try this move again? No, this time he opted not to try and do outside around turn one. Oh, but he has lost the mistake though. Jack Howells ran a little bit too wide on the exit of Daichi, side by side coming into turn three. Oh, that they managed to do it. Oh, and a bit of door rubbing as well. Merkley is like, carry on, fellas. Oh, this keeps me very much in the game. Jimmy Menard, though, cannot force his way past. Merkley has a look on the inside line coming through turn 6. Oh, that's a big old time swapper there from Jimmy Menard. Just the tyres letting go of the wrong tyre. And that gives the Porsche second place.
That's why it's so risky to try and make that sort of move into 100R, because you've got the inside in theory. But going into the hairpin, if it goes a bit wrong, like we saw there, you can leave yourself very, very exposed as Weissenberger has slipped his way back in front of Yukamaki Yupi here. He had been threatening to do so, and Liam Rance will be loving this, because as long as they're fighting each other, they're not fighting him. But poor Rance cannot escape in that Aston Martin. It definitely looks like the Aston Martin does not have the raw straight line speed of, say, the BMW, the Ferrari, or the Mustang in particular, which seems to be very much the car of choice in GT3. In the current update and rule cycle that we're seeing at the moment, much like the Ferrari seems to be the car of choice in Hypercar, but for everyone apart from, of course, Martin Merkley, who seems to be relishing that Porsche 963. But now Merkley's back in sort of the ideal position in this phase because, yeah, he's sort of picky in the middle, not on the pug, but in the Porsche. He can sort of shadow whatever Jack Howes does and sort of save energy almost in his wake as Freyfrom has a little bit of a moment getting on the curb there behind Soper. So this is Soper's, I think, trying to recover some ground after a little bit of a tricky qualifying. Now having to defend from Romain Freyfrom in the Cadillac, of course, the number 2. There should be number 3 on the entry list, but he's decided Midnight Blue looks better. So he's going to stick with that. Let's see if he can get into that top 7 then as we cut back to Kabaki, who is struggling to keep up with Barclay at the moment. And it's interesting, Barclay is actually starting to close on Bischoff, who's really losing touch with Giovannini, who is starting to consolidate that class lead in GT3. As we see in the background, another attempt. Weissenberger having to defend into turn 1 from Yuki Makiupi. Does that leave him vulnerable on exit from Daichi? A little bit wide from Weissenberger, but he's wise to it. No room for Yuki Makiupi yet.
I had a look on the inside of turn 3. It's doable, but you need to force the mistake from your opponent coming through turns 1 and 2. You need to be alongside well before when Juha Mäki-Upi made that look. So running through 100R, and they remain where they are for the time being. This is Martin Mergely, who's fallen off the back of a little bit of Jack Howes in our hyperclass contingent. So Menard, he's kind of settling into his rhythm a little bit. 20 minutes in to this 2.4-hour race here in Fuji. So they may well just be opting to just settle into their rhythm a bit. They've got tyres to preserve, fuel as much as they are going to be able to preserve it. So that is how the energy allocation is looking for our
that's what I thought. Look at the virtual energy. Mergley's been saving a lot more. That's why he's not been sort of anywhere near as fast as the Ferraris down the straights, because I think Mergley is looking to go a lap or 2 longer. I thought Menard might be doing the same. He might be going a lap longer than Howes, but Howes by far the most aggressive on the virtual energy of the 3 of them. So interesting sort of power play between the 3 of them. Are they going to spread out when we get to the pit stops, or are we going to start to see Howes go really aggressive on the strategy and end up vulnerable near the end as Mergley and Menard catch on what will be fresher tyres at that point? As massive slide from Martin Mergley. He did incredibly well to hold on to that one as the Ferrari, and I think that's Dealey going well off track, getting out of the way of everybody there as the Aston Martin swings around.
That's Nonamaker. That was the other Ferrari. We couldn't remember what. Yeah, it's Eric Nonamaker. Has he got damage on the front of that car? Has he hit something? It looked like he was veering towards the pit lane. I wondered from that camera angle whether he had damage to the front of his car. Either way, he does. Production just confirming as Jimmy Menard has a look on the inside line coming into turn 1. Can he get it done? Oh no! It bounces off the side of the Porsche. Martin Mergley didn't really do anything wrong. There wasn't enough room there. I think Jimmy Menard went in a tiny bit deeper than he was anticipating. And Mergley holds on to that second position. That's allowing Howes now to build up a bit of a gap. Not that you need to give Jack Howes any kind of advantage, as he proved last time out. And who is that? That's Nonamaker. Oh, he's pulled this guy into the pit. Is that
that's Mergley around. So yeah, Menard was up the inside at the hairpin, and Mergley just found himself absolutely turned around on the outside there. There's now Adamu, who's been waiting patiently to become part of this action. Vance is making it an all-Ferrari podium here. Mergley, very aggressive, locks the rear tyres into the hairpin net and just about keeps Francesco Adamu out of bay there. But yeah, that's really not part of the plan for Martin Mergley there.
Oh no, that was a very desperate move from Francesco Adamu. That gap was only ever going to close. He was quite lucky they didn't both end up spinning on that one, but that is a retirement then from Eric Nonamaker. That's such a shame. One of our Ferraris now fallen by the wayside. He will play no further part in this race. A great shame, as that leaves us now with just 9 of our GT3 contingent. But we continue to watch this battle for between Martin Mergley, but he's been fighting Ferraris all night long, and now it's a slightly different one now, as Francesco Adamu is the one that is busy occupying his mirrors. A bit unfortunate there for Martin Mergley, but slightly further back, Sasha Sobers and Roman Freyram have been glued together, the Toyota and the Cadillac, all night. Slightly wide there from Roman, but keeps it on the straight and narrow. So this is the argument for 7th position is still at the moment in the hands of Sachin Sobers. Again, you see the Toyota get really uncomfortable coming out of turn 3. And Roman Freire does not have any space to use any kind of momentum advantage from that.
Yeah, and Sobers can't really afford to be taken out because he didn't finish at Imola, did he? So he's not in the best position in the championship as a result. There's the virtual energy, and Merkley still got that advantage. Now, I wonder how angry Martin Merkley is going to get with Jimmy Menard after that contact. We sort of cut mid-incident, so we didn't quite see whether Menard went for a really tiny gap. And speaking of which, Adamu doing the same at nets. He puts himself on the outside for Panasonic, the final corner, and Merkley's just going to force him wide to the outside, defend for as long as he can. And now Adamu's going to try and set himself up, maybe use a bit of virtual energy himself down the straight here. But this might be where Martin Merkley uses a bit if he's got any at his disposal.
Well, they do, but how long are they planning to hang on to it is the ultimate question. Adamu remains where he is for the time being. Remember the most.
Dive from Adamu.
There's Martin Merkley misjudged that, tried to turn in with the Ferrari still present. It's a little bit of a punch in the face from Francesco Adamu. It's a Ferrari 1-2-3 now. As right behind them is Adam Sapler, wanting to try and make it a 4-way fight at the top in the Ferraris. As the Porsche has a look. Well, was that a mistake from Adamu? Did he wander a little bit too wide? Coming to turn 5. We do not know.
He got a bit distracted by the GT3s that they're just coming up. So Merkley's got a little opportunity here into the chicane. Adamu defends immediately. They're going to come upon the Aston Martin, and that's bold from Merkley, trying to go all the way around the outside. But now he's got a face full of Aston Martin as he tries to complete the moonwalk, pushes Adamu almost onto the curb there. But somehow he has been able to squeeze his way through there without too much drama and damage. But yeah, Francesco Adamu is certainly not going to take this sitting down as he positions himself well for another move down the start-finish straight. All the while, Menard and Howells are starting to break away from these two yet again.
They are now coming past. I think Francesco Adamu will feel a bit aggrieved by that. Is he going to try and bend the battery to get back past Martin Merkley as they draw side by side, or just about? The Martin Merkley still has no position advantage, or does he? They're now fully side by side. A bit of a tap on the doors as they come down into turn 1. And that is Francesco Adamu back up into second. Has he gone a bit too deep? It's a bit of a wiggle from both of them as they remain on the black stuff now. But yeah, I think Martin Merkley tried to box Francesco Adamu in behind the Aston Martin of Liam Brandt, but ended up kind of staring at the back of the car he was trying to use as a block against Adamu. So it didn't really work very well for Martin Merkley at the moment. And now he's got not only his windscreen full of Ferrari, he's now got Adam Sapler right on his tail.
Yeah, it felt as well like Adamu, Merkley and Zapla were all just drifting to get around the Ferrari of Bischoff. He's running his own little race in second. It's sort of no man's land, unfortunately for him. Giovannini is just absolutely checking out up front, doing an amazing job, William Giovannini, in that BMW. But yeah, Adam Zapla, much like Adamu, who's sort of decided to be patient, bide his time here. Merkley just seems to be losing time all the time in these battles here. I wonder if Martin might be better served with an early stop to try and at least undercut those around him and get track position, because the more he fights, the angrier he gets, the more he just chews through his tyres, and the more that Porsche just seems to be on the back foot in all of these battles. So there's really a sense of Merkley just going backwards so far in this race. After a fantastic start, he was not really able to capitalise on it, and that left him vulnerable to attacks from those behind.
Macchioppi is watching as a bystander for the Hypercars coming past. It's just a little bit of time to Weissenberger. That's nothing he can't regain. And we don't know what strategies these drivers are looking to do. Are they going to push their tyres hard and come in earlier? Or it does look like everybody's just settling into their rhythm and just going to let the fuel tank decide when they're going to come in.
That top 7 in GT3 is so bunched together, and that's created a big problem for the Hypercars, because they've got to sort of negotiate all of them at once, with only 2 or 3 seconds in between most of them. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of relief in between between them, as you see the 53 Peugeot negotiating and splitting up very briefly, Makiupi and Weisenberg.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out who that was. I can't remember who's in the Porsche, Peugeot rather. We know who's in the Porsche.
Has Merkley gone back up to third because he's round the outside of Adamu then?
Yeah, it's now it's a four-way fight because it's now Adamu, Sapler, Kreutzer's now on the back. Was that Sopers that? No, it's Sobers, isn't it? It's is in this particular fight. So my goodness me, no, it's not. So Assassin Sobers is some distance back. So it is Merkley, Adamu, Sapper, and Kreuzer has now joined this particular argument. There he is in the Toyota at the back of the shot. Is Francesco Adamu going to make the move again? There he goes. Is he going to commit to it? Yes, he does. Yeah, tries to brake very late, pushes the Porsche out. I think Merkley may well feel aggrieved by that. These two are really sparking a feud in this race, aren't they? One's trying to box one behind the other. Now one gets elbowed off the road. Ooh, I think it could be spicy between these two, but now Merkley's got to concentrate on the fact that Adam Sapler is right in his wheel tracks.
Yeah, I think Merkley might be getting a bit frustrated because he feels like being tapped around by Jimmy Menard has kind of ruined his race. Menard actually starting to close on Howells. I wonder if Jack Howells being held up by traffic on this lap because the gap's gone down from about 2 seconds to 1.3 then. But nearly 7 seconds then in arrears is Adamu, who having just pushed out Merkley has now got to hold him off on this particular lap then. But yeah, it's all very, very congested in this fight for third between these four different hypercars, essentially between the two Ferraris, the Porsche, and now the Toyota joining the party as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they all work themselves out, and also with different kind of tyre allocations as well. As was highlighted earlier, Adamu, he's got hards on the front and hard on the front left. Only one of his tyres is the harder compound, the others are medium. Kreuzer is hard on the front, medium on the rear. Sapler is medium all around. It does seem to be slightly more, yeah, and same for Merkley, that's right. So the mediums all around seems to be slightly more preferred. However, there are some drivers opting a slightly different strategy. So how that will pay off for them, we have absolutely no idea at this stage. We will have to wait and see how the strategies play out. But now these four seem to be in a bit of a rhythm. I'm keeping an eye on Menard. He's closing in on Howells for the Hypercar lead.
Yeah, Jimmy Menard, of course, may have a little bit of investigation afterwards for that move on Merkley. But nonetheless, on track at least, he is really closing to the back of Howells. And I wonder, is Howells still starting to run a bit low on virtual energy? Or maybe there's something else happening. Yeah, 35%, 36%. It's pretty even between the two of them. So maybe Howells is just genuinely struggling on those tyres there, whereas Menard has got hards on one side of the car that are working pretty well. So it definitely looked from the tyre allocation at the beginning like Menard was planning a longer stint here, and maybe we might see Howells pit in the next couple of laps and Menard really try and extend as long as he can. But of course they're limited by how much the fuel tank will just let them go on for them, essentially. So sooner or later they're all going to have to come in. We'll be interested to see who blinks first and decides to get out of this battle.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, Merkley's early virtual energy advantage is gone. When we looked at the numbers just now, they were all within a couple of percent of each other. So whatever Martin Merkley may well have been, if he was opting to try and save some energy, that advantage is now gone. So these four hypercars still very, very close together.
But the thing is, he's going to regret not using it early when he was actually in the lead pack, and now he's sort of stuck in this fight for third, essentially.
Well, absolutely so. As we look at second place in our GT3s of Marco Bischoff, and our lead Ferrari with Nico Barkley in the lead Mustang. Three different manufacturers in our top three, with William Giovannini still 5 seconds down the road. So it hasn't necessarily broken away by a huge margin. It has just slowly and consistently built that gap. Doesn't need to break away. Whether you win by a lap or a second, it makes no difference. It's you still take the win. So that could be, he's just doing what he needs to do. As our hypercar pair, our lead pair, now very much close together. As that will be Liam Rance that they are dancing their way around. Sol Aston Martin in this race. Oh no, big one. There's Neto. They are bouncing around, so it's not Rance's car. So that puts Jack Howells and Jimmy Menard close together again. We know full well they're not just going to play the long game. unless they decide just to kind of settle into a rhythm and try and build a gap. They've got 8.3 seconds over the next Ferrari of Francesco Darmu. We've seen how these two play when they're very close together, and it's not particularly conducive to building a gap. So we'll see if it becomes spicy once again.
Look at that on this lap, they've actually lost almost a second to Adamu. So even just being held up behind Howells is bad for Menard then in this stint. So he's got every incentive to go for a risky move here. Howells, leading the championship, wants to sort of press home that advantage, but you sense if Menard does like a do-or-die move at Daichi, that first hairpin, I don't think Jack Howells will defend that too hard personally.
We will see. We will see. As we look at our Mustang pair once again, they've been glued together all night long. Of Julian Weissenberger and Juha Mäki-Jäpi, with an Aston Martin right ahead of them. So that is Liam Rance. So these three have actually been in short succession all night long. And then Liam Rance is just kind of minding his own business at this stage. It's a couple of seconds off the back of the BMW that's just gone out of shot of Adrian Kabaki. So that is 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th in our GT3 field in that particular camera shot. They're just kind of minding their own business at the moment. There is Stefan Kula, reserve driver in our Soul Alpine, just dancing his way past Nico Barkley in the very distinctive blue Mustang. Oh, that might have put Stefan Kula slightly off his... yeah, he's decided to stay behind the Mustang. He got slightly put off his rhythm there, as the Mustang didn't do anything wrong, just understeered slightly. Oh, Ferrari splitting Ferraris. Nice. There's a bit of... Oh, crikey. Jimmy Menard didn't want to be sat behind, I think it was Giovannini. He did not want to be sat behind his...
Giovannini's in the BMW, so it's
Bischoff. So it's Bischoff.
Or Dealey.
Dealey. So I'm guessing them all right. It would help if they were different colours, but we know we can back
the 66 and the 86 are quite different colours, to be fair. But,
well, I grant you that, but with it...
and the other Ferrari's out of the race, so it would either have to be Dealey or Bischoff. So actually, if anything, they're the two that are easier to tell apart. There you go.
That looks right, yeah. I'll go back in my box then.
There we go. Yes.
No, this is the Corvette masquerading as a Cadillac by my own description earlier on. I knew it wouldn't take long for production to point that one out.
Mitro's still holding on to that final point, though. That's good for him.
True enough.
Right at the back of the grid.
And with a smaller grid, that will help those that would possibly not be scoring as many points, or give opportunity for those that might be a little bit further down the points table to score some much-needed points for the season. So look at our Ferrari pair. Now this is a little bit more conducive to working together to build a lead, isn't it? So you didn't see Jimmy Menard trying to force his way through, maybe just trying to stretch out the fuel a little bit more, or his virtual engine a bit more. We will see that we don't know what strategies our drivers are trying to implement here. As I'm watching at the tower, Mergley is very, very close still to Sattler, so we'll see.
Sattler's got through then. So yeah, Mergley coupled back to 5th position then. So it's a Ferrari 1, 2, 3, 4. And yeah, this was not part of the plan for Martin Mergley, but maybe he is playing the long game now, realising because he chewed for his virtual energy earlier, he has to conserve it a little bit and sort of take the hit in terms of track position. But it might enable him to sort of stay on this strategy and sort of come back into it, because what they're all trying to do is go for about 50 minutes on this fuel tank. So we are about 13 minutes away from when we should be seeing people going into the pits. They're all trying to run the tank till it goes empty, essentially, at least on the evidence that we've seen so far. Yeah, Martin Mergley is close enough to the back of Sattler to try and slipstream his way back through then, but they've also got that Toyota as the cruiser cruising up to the back of them.
Yes, Luke. So production say it's more down to tyre allocation than fuel, and that's going to be interesting because again, as we've already discussed,
Menard very close to Howells again as we're watching this.
Very true. So and they're side by side looking at the tower, and that's Menard having a move. And that's Jack Howells defending that inside line, giving Jimmy Menard a big old shove.
Cold shoulder.
Very much so, and again Menard looking on the inside line, can't get it done down into turn 3. That's a big statement of intent. I wondered whether Jimmy Menard was going to try and just kind of sit there and bide his time. But on the evidence of that, no, he's on a bit of a fresh charge. Maybe just letting the tyres come back to him a little bit more. We will see. So, yeah, I'm curious about the pit stop. So, of course, the part of it is dictated by the fuel tank. They can't just completely run forever. About 50 minutes worth of fuel is what they've all started with. So, we will see then how the different tyre allocations are going to affect certainly the first pit stop, as we may well see a complete change in the guard. Because we've seen almost, with the exception of those running mediums all round, we've got quite a very different idea on who's running hards and which corners of the car. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they come out of the first pit stop.
It absolutely is one. Remember when I said that a few laps ago that Jack Howes is not going to fight Jimmy Menard too hard at this early phase of the race with that championship lead in his mind? I withdraw that completely. He was absolutely prepared to run him off track at every attempt there. So while we've been watching this, by the way, is Mercury still within about 4/10 of Sappler, but quite close enough to make the move into Dai-G. We've also got there's just getting his way past the GT3s, but there's also this fight for second that's now starting to heat up in GT3 between Nico Barclay and Marco Bischoff, as Bischoff has been consistently caught by Barclay, who's been gaining time lap after lap after lap, 10th by 10th, inch by inch. He's getting that bright baby blue Mustang closer and closer to the red Ferrari. And Marco Bischoff, will he be thinking championship as well? Giovannini really stretching his legs to 6 seconds up front, and Bischoff knows the threats from behind rather than him looking to gain position in front of him at the moment.
Absolutely true. And will Marco Bischoff be thinking about really defending hard against Nico Barclay? I suspect so, or he may opt to let the Mustang go. We don't know what the tyre allocations are like for the GT3s, as Jimmy Menard gets right, all mediums just been told, so that's a little bit more of a uniform choice for the GT3s. So Menard got very much under the rear wing of Jack Howes then. Let's see if this is going to affect how he approaches turn one. Is he gaining? It's difficult to tell from the offboard. Oh, there he goes. Yep, so Jack Howes definitely knew that was coming and adopted his defensive posture very early. We've seen Jimmy Menard try this too many times. So he's trying to do that outside manoeuvre. This time gets a bit of a punch in the face from Jack Howes. They remain where they are, but that is hurting the gap between themselves and Adamu, or potentially doing so, although it still remains about 6.5 seconds.
That looked to me like Menard was thinking about cutting underneath, and then sort of realised too late that he'd gone slightly too deep in the corner to do that, and so that was why there was almost a little bit of contact. Yes, they come upon the Corvette of Mitral at a pretty good moment actually for one of that's 300R, of course. They've just lapped him through, as there is Barclay still within 8/10 of Bischoff, and I think Bischoff very impressive so far in this championship. Nico Barclay has a lot of experience in sim racing, one of the bigger names in the Gold Split. I think Liam Rance would be the other one, but yeah, he's really started to put Bischoff under pressure, and Marco, to his credit, actually has not made any big mistakes here. He may not have the pace of that Mustang, but that Ferrari is going to defend elbows out every step of the way. We've seen a lot of defensive Ferraris in this race, haven't we? And I think we're about to see a bit more in a few minutes' time.
Yeah, absolutely true. And here we go again. Howes and Menard. And again, you see Jack Howes immediately making that defensive statement. Doesn't stick to it this time, doesn't need to. He will be defending fresh air, and Jimmy Menard not close enough to make a move this time. This has got to be eating into their virtual energy, but they are still maintaining that gap. Well, there it is. So they're still fairly close to each other, the top five, as you can see on screen. So those with an slight advantage is Menard and Sappler, but the advantage isn't really paying off for Jimmy Menard at the moment. Every time he gets close to Jack Howes, positions his car perfectly well to keep that defensive posture intact and ultimately keep Jimmy Menard behind.
Yeah, Jimmy Menard just looks a little bit more confident of the two. The tyres in slightly better nick, especially on that left-hand side where he's put on the hards. But he's just sort of not going for silly moves here. I think he knows if he can extend by a lap or two, that should give him advantage in the second stint, even if he gets sort of undercut by Howes and Howes comes out with maybe a 2 or 3 second lead. I think he has the confidence that he can gain that back on the sort of tyre offset then that's he's trying to build up at the moment. But at the same time, the lead is tantalizingly within his grasp as he now closes in on that rear wing again. Is he going to trick Jack Howes into using more of his virtual energy when he doesn't need to? Let's see. Or is Jimmy Menard fancying that track position? Then he cuts to the outside once again, and Jack Howes once again forces him to go the long way round, but he's going to try and do it. Is he going to leave enough room without forcing on track? There we go. The rear just complaining on the Menard there, and he has to let that one go. But that was very, very close. The closest we've seen so far, I think, from Menard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Menard is trying to get the inside line for turn 3. That's what he's trying to achieve. But then that risks him being on the outside line for 4 and 5, which is 100R, which will very much act against him. Well, we will see then as we cut back to our 2 Mustangs. Mirko Yoppi was ahead of Weissenberger a little bit earlier in the race, but as you can quite clearly see, has fallen back behind his essentially his arch nemesis. Coming over the start finish line and for our 6th and 7th place GT3 runners. Looking at the gap of our hypercars, even with Howes and Menard fighting as hard as they are, that gap between themselves and Francesco Darby hasn't changed an awful lot. So it's come down slightly on this particular lap, but it's not come down as much as you might think. As Darby is broken away from Sappler, it's a yellow Ferrari just behind him. Merkley is then the 5th car in that particular train. Anybody coming into the pit lane just yet? No, not just yet. In the next 5 minutes is when we start to expect people coming in. Jimmy Menard might choose to kind of get out of this little stalemate that he's been in with Jack Howes. Maybe pit a little bit earlier. We'll see if that is going to benefit him. Or he might just try and copy what Jack Howes does.
Yeah, the other thing about virtual energy, though, is he might try to, even if he has a bit more remaining, if he goes into the pits, that means he spends a little bit less time refilling the virtual energy as well. And also the other question is, are you going to double stint the tyres? Are you going to just put fuel in and maybe put the virtual energy sort of half full rather than all the way? So yeah, there's all these little things you can do to sort of try and get track position that you wouldn't necessarily see in, say, like a single-seater or a sprint format of race. So that makes this really, really interesting here. But yeah, Menard, I think he's sort of backing off from his attacks now. He's just trying to make sure he gets the mileage in that he wants.
Also, you can't be attacking someone for 2.4 hours constantly. No matter how good you are.
Certainly try. It might not work out.
We'd love it for them to try it, but sooner or later, someone is going to be spiraling off either into the dust or into the back of the car they're chasing. You can't be constantly attacking. There has to be some kind of give. They do need to kind of give their brains a little bit of a rest as much as you can. Kind of have a mental break on a track like Fuji. Along the start finish is the only time you kind of just relax your hands a little bit, let them flex, just let your brain just slightly unwind. But even that is only very, very brief, especially when, like the likes of Jack Howes and Jimmy Menard, they've just been locked in this battle. So they're constantly focusing on what they're doing. Eventually, one of them will just make that mistake. Oh, as Menard is caught up behind one of the Ferraris. Is Nick Deedy, thank you. It is indeed. So there is Nick Deedy, 8th in our GT3s. What is he? Some 17, 18 seconds off the back, off the Mustang pair. And there they are, Weissenberger and Mirko Yoppi. They were chasing Liam Rance for a while. What is the gap between? Well, they still are, but what is the gap between? There's only a second, I think, between. Yeah,
only a second. I think he just disappeared out of frame as they were showing that external shot. Yeah, but yeah, Liam Rance starting to feel pressure now because he's not really been catching Kabaki, who has well and truly dropped off the back of Barclay since he got through in that 77 Ford Mustang. So yeah, Bischoff is really under pressure for second, and then Rance has got 2 very, very quick Mustangs that he's got to sort of. The Aston Martin, as we said, maybe not the quickest down the straight, but Liam Rance is having to make up for it through the corners. He's doing a stellar job so far, but the pressure is going to build and build and build. And also, the question mark is how long can he go in this first stint as we go to all the fuel tanks have only really got about 2 minutes remaining. So everybody's trying to stretch it thin because nobody wants to make an extra stop at the end. I think everybody's committing to a 2-stop at this phase.
Well, again, can they make it work? That is going to be the big question. They know what they've planned, they know what they've practiced. Will they make it work when the time counts? Only time will tell. Now there is a bit of a gap between Howes and Menard, so whether there's been a mistake from Jimmy Menard, whether he's been caught up in the traffic, or exactly as you were saying, Ed, he's deciding now is the time to back off and just give himself that bit of breathing space. We don't know. It does seem to be falling quite a bit off the back. Bearing in mind that Jimmy Menard's been on the gearbox of Jack Howes. Suddenly now there's over a second between them. That would indicate that that's more than. Well,
is that our 2 leaders coming through in the background?
Well, this might help Jimmy Menard close in a bit. Yes, it is. That's our 2 hypercar leaders just catching the back of the Mustangs. Now, is that going to help bring them in? Well, now Jimmy Menard's got his face full of vice. Oh, that was close. That was very, very close. That's no harm, no foul on that occasion. Still no one looking at the pit lane just yet. There's Martin Merkley in 5th position. He's that's the Alpine. That's Köhler. Our sole Alpine, and he's either made a mistake or he's just getting out of the way because he is actually being lapped. So I think he's potentially getting out of people's way as that is now a lap that has been presented by his own class.
Impressive. Everybody's trying to stretch it almost to an hour here. Yeah, so 57 minutes on the field to make it a 2-stop. That's what they need. And so with a 2-hour 40-minute race, we've done 50 minutes so far. So they need to just go for 7 minutes more, don't they? But this is really harem-scarum stuff where you really don't want to end up running out on track, especially in this first stint as well. You might be better off just cutting your losses going into the pits rather than finding yourself just running on fumes out there.
We'll see. Someone will try it.
Aggressive lapping from Howes.
Yes, he was determined to get past Nico Barkley in the bright blue Mustang. As he's now got Bischoff right ahead of him, so he just needs to hug that inside line through turn 14, which he does. Bischoff doing what he needs to do. Oh, that's caught Menard out. So Menard is slightly disadvantaged in the traffic. Nothing anybody did wrong, particularly there. That forced him to the outside line of turn 15. Does anybody now look to the pit lane? Doesn't look like it. No, they are continuing along their merry way. They can't go too much further. Virtual energy is nearly dry.
Yeah, remember, if you hit 0, that's a 100-second penalty, which could well be the difference between winning the race and not finishing sort of out of the points there. As you see, was that Howes or Menard that had a huge moment? It was Jack Howes that just absolutely struggled there at that first effort. So because even though the 51 and the 50 have a couple of differences, so when you just see them on their own, it's difficult to immediately identify them as, it's very, very hectic there. Around the outside goes Howes of both, that must be Jerome Mitro and one of the BMWs as well. That's our class leader, Danini then, who avoids any issues there. Roman Freifrom is the first to blink then and get that Cadillac into the pits for fuel and almost certainly some fresh tyres as well.
I didn't realise they could rotate on their own hydraulic jacks. That's a new one. That's a new one on me.
Yeah, there's an interesting system in the pits where sometimes it's very, very congested. It will try and turn you to the left out of the little lane of traffic if there's someone immediately ahead of you. So you're not just going to hit the front and then crash into the back of somebody, as I actually saw someone do in a sim race on the first day hilariously in the pit. Somebody used to iRacing, who were doing R-Factor 2 for the first time, crashed immediately into the back of somebody. You see Howes on 3%. He's surely coming into the pit soon. I think Cruiser may be following him as well.
And in they come, are they? Yeah, they are lead 2 coming in. I would think a lot of people are going to follow them in. That is one of our. That is that's Kabaki as well in the BMW coming in. Now,
so Adamu, 53 minutes, Howes and Zapla. So 2-stop might be in a bit of jeopardy here, but Adamu, Zapla, they're carrying on. Hopefully, Cruiser though followed them both in.
Now, keep it very close. Oh, here we go. Yeah, most of the hypercar class coming in. Oh, what a shuffle backwards there for Fuji.
Giovanini in as well from the lead, I think, in GT3.
You were not sure.
And our second place Ferrari
yes, there
Bishop
he is.
and there's Liam Rance.
Yes, so several of our GT3s now looking to come in. Out it comes Roman Freire. He was the first of our hypercars to come in, along with Mergedy and Kreuzer, as we saw. So they've now found their particular boxes. There we go. So yeah, he's getting quite congested down there, but Francesco Darmu choosing to continue along his merry way.
Oh,
no! So the two Ferraris then still glued together. Both of them have the same idea.
Did you see, though, that the game positioned him to the left there, and that cost him a little bit of time just to make sure he wasn't hitting? I think it was a GT3 right in front of him, as there's Mergely, who's gotten going just ahead of Kreuzer there as well. So luckily, Mergely doesn't lose another position. Sober's on 1% though. Going the extra lap has really put him in a vulnerable position here. He is in real danger of getting that 100-second penalty.
That's a long old penalty. In comes Adamu, in comes Sapler. Does Sobers hit zero? He's going to be staring at that fuel gauge, hoping to God it does not tick down to zero.
This is the percentage, and look how much track he got there. Cannot get in soon enough.
Wow. Well, I mean, he's in.
Oh, look at the red head. That shows he's gone below 1% then as he's entered the pit entrance.
So he tried his best to string that out as long as he could.
Doesn't mean he's run out, but it means he's very, very close if he hasn't.
So Demillions and Adamu also in. So I think pretty much the rest. Butsin has chosen not to come in just yet, so he's hung on to a bit more of his virtual energy than most others. Of course, he was more towards the tail end of the hypercar field. That is Juha Mäki-Jopi in.
Mäki-Jopi was the only one who went the extra lap, I think, from the leaders in GT3.
Okay. So
Eisenberg did the same, I think.
Yeah, so we'll see if those two Mustangs are glued together again upon their exit. Out comes Francesco Adamu and Adam Sapler, and past the start finish line with a bit of a gap between them now is our lead pair once again of Howes and Menard.
Adamu and Sapler are going to work together here surely to catch that those two leaders. They've got the slightly fresher tyres, they've got a bit more fuel. I think it's game on really, and now we see Mergely having to defend from Lucas Kreuzer.
Yes, straight on the defence now. Lucas Kreuzer was with Martin Mergely before they came into the pit. So
is not pit yet. He's just gone full send to try. I think he's definitely going to be able to make the two-stop work. He's done very well to conserve the virtual energy he has, but yeah, Butsin is surely heading for the pits now. Howes will really take the lead.
He's short. He can't go on another lap again. And there he is. So Marvin Butsin brings his Ferrari into the pit lane.
Starving Marvin. Starving.
Yeah, very, very much so. As still pit stops being conducted. As we look at our reunited Jack Howes and Jimmy Menard. Butsin is in the pits, as we know. Kula is still in the pits. There's quite a few cars still in the pit lane. So we'll give that a few laps to. Liam Ross. Yeah, Liam Ross now on the back of Adrian Kibaki. So
he's had a much slower stop because he's dropped behind Nico Barclay and off the podium. So it's interesting, maybe the others have done something on the fuel or double simmed the tyres, and Kibaki has decided to have a longer service. So yeah, it could be interesting if Rance can hang on to his coattails. It could help him break away from Weisenberger and Mäki-Jopi.
Well, we will see how that turns out. Mäki-Jopi still on the tail of Weisenberger, although a bit closer than they were pre-pit stop. Again, probably just biding their time. We know after when they do their final stops, it'll be all gloves off and no holds barred. But Adrian Kibaki, now, was he anticipating being in a battle with the Aston Martin of Liam Rance? He's gone straight away to that defensive posture, straight out of the final turn. A little bit early to be defending the fresh air, but he's keeping his car right in the middle of the road. Now just slowly wandering back to the racing line. He committed to that defensive cluster very early, and the Mustangs are side by side again. There's Weissenberger under pressure from Makiopi. That's the yellow Mustang braking a bit early. Has he forced a mistake? Yes, he has. Weissenberger's gone too deep. And that is 6th position back in the hands of Makiopi.
Yeah, that was actually really clever driving, because Makiopi sort of showed his nose to the outside, sort of half-heartedly, and then forced Weissenberger to just go way too deep trying to defend into that first hairpin at Daichi, and that was all it really took. So Makiopi, he's going to be tricky to break away, as he's found the whole race, but he's got back in that 6th position, and now Liam Rance may be feeling a little bit nervous if he can't stay within that second of Kabaki, because that's really where he needs to sort of get the toe from that BMW in front of him. And we know the Aston Martin needs that speed from the slipstream to sort of stay in contention here. And look at that, Kabaki starting to pull away. So here is the current standing. And William Giovannini, after 33 laps, leads Marco Bischoff by 5.4 seconds. And Bischoff is actually starting to close a little bit in that Ferrari. Nico Barclay is up to third. Adrian Kabaki, a good 9 seconds behind him then. Liam Rance is a second down in 5th, and it's Yuka Makiopi, as we saw with that move, getting his way up into 6th ahead of Julian Weissenberger. Jerome Mitral is currently running 8th, as we see the 2 hypercar leaders closer and closer, and then Nick Dealey is 9th, and Beccio Neto, after the early penalty, set to take the final point in 10th. Meanwhile, this is the battle you're looking. It's Jimmy Menard all over the back of him, isn't he? And Howells is really going to have to go some here, because Menard looks very, very fired up indeed. We know they've had to change tyres. Adamu's just set the fastest lap of the race, trying to catch them, by the way. But look how close Menard is, Chris.
No, he's incredibly close, and not at all what Howells wants. He doesn't want someone buzzing around at his rearview mirror. He just wants to kind of get on with the race and let the laps tick away. But Jimmy Menard has got no such intention of giving him that advantage, and very, very defensive goes Howells. Yes, they are coming past the Ferrari, but Menard knows is up to the lead, and this very much alongside, but the inside line still belongs to Howells and maintains that lead. And again, Menard must be thinking, what do I have to do to get past Jack Howells? There was a little bit of faster light up. I don't think Jack Howells did anything wrong. It's just as Menard slightly offline, couldn't get the traction where he needed it, and that gave the momentum advantage back to Jack Howells.
So here's the interesting thing. Howells has put 2 hard tyres on in that pit stop on the left-hand side, as you get a face full of Goodyear advertising board there at Dunlop corner. Menard has kept his tyre configuration from before, so he didn't change tyres during the stop. He's still got, so they've both got the same layout there. It's again, Menard really just doing well not to just bump into the back of him there. But look at Adamu. He's gone from 8 seconds behind to 6.3 seconds behind. He is absolutely flying there. And that is why Menard is so desperate to get through, because he knows there's a threat from Adamu and Saplar closely in tow behind him.
Yes, so true. And like you say, Adamu with the fastest lap of the race so far in the Hypercar class, closing in. Wow, he really is closing in on these two. He wants to get involved in this lead fight. Good exit from the Panasonic corner for Jack Howells. That will give him that little bit of breathing space. And also Jimmy Menard may well just be backing off a little bit, although getting into the slipstream, is he going to banzai the inside of Daichi? No, he doesn't, and I think quite wisely so. But you saw throughout the course of the lap, he was just trying and poking and prodding and seeing where he'd find any kind of advantage. Every time he's tried that move into turn 1, which is the heaviest braking zone of the entire lap, then every time he's tried it, it has not paid off. The next kind of very heavy braking zone, you can argue there's a bit of a braking zone here in turn 6, but you just come off of that long right-hander of 100R, so it's not a great opportunity. The next really big braking zone you could try and dive the inside is coming up, it's turn 10, Dunlop corner. But you can see how defensive Howells has gone. He's wise to that, and again that forces Menard to the outside. But it's going to give him the inside for turn 11, and that's given the lead back to Menard. But has he been wrong-footed already? And there's Howells. He probably dumped the battery as well to get back up into the lead. Gives a bit of a hit check to Menard, and that's Howells still in the lead of the race.
That was the ultimate sucker punch from Jack Howells, wasn't it? And Jimmy Menard thought he made the move at the centre around the outside of Dunlop, but then Jack Howells, as you say, on that virtual energy, just pushed his way to get back through up the inside, and Menard now finds himself having to do the move again, but he's tucked right in behind this time as they cross the start-finish line with 1 hour 37 minutes left to go. Still a long way to go in this race, but Menard desperate to get into the lead. He's going to get to the inside first this time. Jack Cowles leaves the door open, and Jimmy Menard up the inside. Oh, he turns in from the outside there. That was very forceful from Cowles. He did not want to give up that lead, but he's had to give it up. And look at Damu, 4 seconds behind now. He's really getting him inside of Jack Cowles here, and this could be testing times for our championship.
Absolutely. So it took a while for this battle to really start to kick off. It's been near or thereabouts, hasn't it? It's been threatened for a while between Menard and Cowles. But as they are catching to the back, that's Liam Branson. They are getting to the back off. Again, the Aston not doing anything wrong. As the two Ferraris having to work their way past. A little bit further back, that was the other Aston. As the tail end of the GT3 field still very, very close together. Oh, and that is Olivier Demeliant on the back of, defending. Is that from... Frey Rom is the lead of these two guys, I think. Yes, so that's the Alpine. Oh no, that was Menard boxing Cowles behind the BMW of Kabaki. So that was a very opportunistic move. Shane didn't quite catch the beginning of that, and then immediately glues himself to the inside line, but returns to the racing line straight away. Jack Cowles is not going to like that, and then straight away Menard goes back to that defensive posture. It all is gloves off, all no holds barred between our lead two, and that's still allowing Adamu to close in 3.5 seconds between the next Ferrari and our leaders of the hypercar class.
Yeah, Francesco Adamu is absolutely loving this, but I actually think that BMW held up Menard almost as much as it did Jack Cowles there. Cowles tried to take advantage going around the outside at the final corner at Panasonic, but found the line blocked. As now Nico Barclay it's his turn to be negotiated by the inseparable duo of Menard and Cowles there. And you can tell Adamu's really, because he's on his own, he doesn't have to fight anybody to get through this traffic with that 2.7 second gap to Zampler. He's done an absolutely exemplary job here. All of our top three have in both classes, it must be said then. But yeah, this is where it gets very, very interesting indeed. I think Nico Barclay, by the way, may have had a longer stop than Bischoff, because he did lose a lot of time in that stop. Or was it Barclay that went a lap longer than Bischoff? I can't remember off the top of my head. But the interesting, yeah, I think he just had a slower stop then. So it'll be interesting to see if Nico Barclay can get back, coast up to the back of that 66 Ferrari GT3 again. As you see, there he is. Let the two leaders through 6/10 apart then. But yeah, Jimmy Menard, having worked so hard for so long to get into the lead, now finds he has to work even harder to maintain it here.
Although that exit from Panasonic corner is actually given about 6/10 of a second to Menard there. So he is quite happy with that. And Adamu is still marching on, closing into the back of what is now Jack Cowles as our lead Mustangs. Not quite sure that's correct. No, it's not correct. Nico Barclay's the lead Mustang. These two Mustangs must know each other's car layout by memory. They've been staring at each other for so long. But Juha Mäki-Jypi is in the lead of these two. This battle for 6th position. Julian Weissenberger now has to stare at the back of the yellow Mustang rather than staring at the nose of it in his rearview mirror, as he has done for most of the race. The rest of the GT3 field are fairly spread out, minding their own business. Giovannini is long into the distance at this stage, just kind of doing what he needs to do in the BMW.
Bischoff has actually gained a couple of attempts here in the last couple of laps, so the gap's gone from 2 seconds to 5.5 then. So yeah, Giovannini, I think, taking it a little bit easier at this phase, knows he doesn't have to push too much. Although saying that, he gets well over the curb at nets into 14. So yeah, of course, it's going to ebb and flow as we deal with all this GD traffic. And Mäki-Jypi is very, very close now to the back of Weissenberger, who's immediately gone back through then just before Dunlop. So opportunistic move there from the German. And now Mäki-Jypi, the Finnish driver, trying to dive back up the inside as well at 13. And finding the line is very much blocked.
These two just have not left each other alone all race long, have they? So a good move on the inside of turn 10. Dunlop corner 4. Julian Weissenberger gives him 6th position back again. So does Juha Mäki-Jypi have an answer to that? Probably does, but we might see a few laps before that is played out. 1.4 seconds, Menard to Howells now. So that's the biggest gap we've seen between these two for quite a while. And will Jack Howells stand for that? Highly unlikely. But Francesco Adamu continuing to erode that gap between himself and the lead two Ferraris. So yeah, he's really pressing on, and that's what it looks like from Francesco Adamu's perspective. Nothing drives a driver on. It's very much the the bigger the carrot, the more the pace appears. He can see the two ahead of him. He knows that they've been fighting, and equally he knows he's closing in. So yeah, that is a real motivation from Francesco Adamu.
Yeah, the other thing that's going on, of course, just him and Zablok hit that lap later than Menard and Howells. So Adamu knows he has got more fuel to play with here, whereas Menard and Howells might have to save at the end of this stint to make sure they can finish the race on a two-stop strategy effectively. So Adamu is in a really strong position. The only problem is there's that temptation when chasing to use a little bit too much fuel, eat all your sweeties at once, which is certainly not a good idea in Easter. He's just going to be sick. But in this instance, it could leave him with a little bit of that temptation to push too hard, chasing a sort of moving target, because of course he's sort of making sure he's in a good position for the end of the race, not necessarily going for track position immediately now. But you can see that Howells has had to use more virtual energy while defending that lead, and that means he's 2% down on his immediate rivals here.
Merkley with the percentage advantage from our top five again, so he's been able to save a little bit more in the Porsche than those around him. He's a couple of seconds off the back of Adam Sapler at the moment, so he's not immediately battling someone, but he's in doing that he's been able to save a little bit of percentage. And again, Howells, you can see there, he's definitely at a bit of a disadvantage now. Is he going to be able to recoup that? Well, possibly. I mean, it does kind of ebb and flow as the race continues. We are fast approaching the halfway point in this race. Another 10 minutes signifies that the halfway stage. That's very deep for Adamu. So as he just pushed himself a little bit too hard, taking his eye off the ball, it's very easy to do. I mean, there's not a big gap between turn 15 and 16. He won't lose an awful lot, and it just throws your concentration. You know you make that mistake. So he doesn't want to throw away all the gains he's worked so hard to gain for himself, as we look at Juha Mäki-Juppi still on the back of Julian Weissenberger.
Well, ideally for Adamu, he wants to sort of push Howells into using more virtual energy that forces him to pit maybe a lap or two earlier than he'd ideally like, because that puts Howells absolutely on the back foot, because he's not going to get a big undercut when he comes out the pit lane. You see yellow flag somewhere out on track that clears, but Mäki-Juppi is desperate to get revenge on Weissenberger for what feels like the third or fourth time in this race. Then he's outsmarted him before. Can he do it again? Certainly that bright yellow Mustang is it's difficult to miss, isn't it? It's like someone in a bright yellow overcoat. You see him coming from a mile off, and Weissenberger actually doesn't get the ideal line through Panasonic. That allows Mäki-Juppi to get right in the slipstream here. So I think he's gearing up a move into Daichi here.
And look how early the Weissenberger goes to that defensive posture. He knows he was wrong-footed through net and through Panasonic, and of course it means he carries that mistake a very long way. Mäki-Juppi, oh wow! You don't usually try and make the move on the inside of the, coming towards the pit wall. But again, he's trying to wrong foot Weissenberger. This is where Weissenberger made that mistake before, but Mäki-Juppi not able to capitalize on it this time. The Finnish driver having to remain in 7th place. But look at Menard. He is broken away by 3.3 seconds. Adamu just 2 seconds off the back of former race leader and current championship leader Jack Howells.
That really shows you how much Menard was losing stuck behind Jack Howells, wasn't it? So, yeah, Francesco Adamu now is slowly actually starting to be played out of that lead fight, isn't he? Because he's not really catching Menard at the rate that he's catching Howells. So the pressure is really on Jack Howells here, because if he loses track position here or is forced into doing a strategy that makes him really marginal on fuel just to sort of keep track position, then that could really backfire in the last couple of laps. So he's got to sort of hold his nerve here and make sure he doesn't make a big mistake here that he doesn't want to use fuel that he'll desperately need later on. Whereas Adamu, he's just going to put him under maximum pressure here.
There's Kreuzer on the back of Merton Mögli. So the Porsche in Sixth position, was leading the race early on, following a superb start. A great qualifying, in fairness. Very much the cat amongst the pigeons, the odd one out, the Porsche in amongst all the Ferraris at the top of the Hypercar tree. Hypercar, what am I talking about? Hypercar tree. You can see by the the overlay there. Also, Liam Rance and Howes as well. It was not a good qualifying for Jack Howes, starting down to 6th position. Has gained 4. Of course, has led for a while, as we've been seeing. Oh wow! I think that is Didi that almost got himself a bit of a punch in the face there. There is our GT3 leader, William Giovannini, who has led the GT3 class from pole all race long so far and has maintained that gap.
I've not noticed that before. Liam Rance ahead of Kabaki in that fight for 4th then. So Rance has gained another position from the 3 he gained at the start there. And he's pulled a 3.6 second gap. So while we're fortunate to fight for the lead, Liam Rance absolutely made hay. And Kabaki, who has sort of been going backwards in this race, hasn't he? Is now well and truly off the podium. He might have to worry about that terrible duo of Weisenberger and Maki Yupi. Not terrible in terms of people, but terrible in terms of having to deal with either of them as an opponent, essentially. I hope I made that clear there.
A tough duo rather than anything else. Yeah, absolutely true. Kabaki's, I hadn't spotted that, so yeah, good spot there, Ed. He's, Liam Rance has got 3.6 or so over the BMW. Liam Rance still our lead Aston Martin of the 2 that we have got for tonight. Can he close in on the podium with 10.2 seconds? That is a difficult gap to close in, but still has just under an hour and a half in which to do it. But Marco Yoppi, remember what I was saying earlier, that some drivers just, would just need a bit of a break, a little bit of a moment to relax. Well, these two haven't had that at all. They have been staring at each other all night. Generally, it's been Weissenberger ahead of the Finnish driver of Marco Yoppi, but he's always been there. The yellow Mustang has always been a threat to that position. As through comes another one of our Ferrari hypercars. Not 100% sure. Oh, wow. Weissenberger possibly braked a little bit early to try and let the hypercar through. That caught or Marco Yoppi completely missed his brakes, so it could be a bit of a combination of the pair of them. As that was Jack, it was Jack Maynard that has come through. Now
Jack
has
Maynard?
5.
You mean Jimmy Maynard, right?
Jimmy Maynard, that one. Jimmy Maynard, then 5.5 seconds to the good now. Well, Jack Howes has definitely lost that pace advantage we saw earlier on.
Yeah, you can tell that he knows he can't use more virtual energy, knows he can't use more fuel, and so that's put him in a tricky position. The tyres also, it's interesting that even on the what in theory he's got the fresher hard tyres on the left-hand side than Jimmy Maynard, but that's not really worked in his favour. And in fact, the Damu, who I believe just went for another set of mediums, if memory serves, has just been consistently faster in this stint. I think also just the traffic hasn't really gone Jack Howell's way as a general rule, and that's played. So all 3 of those factors have really played against him here, into the hands of Adamu, who's now within about 2 seconds of him, closer than he's ever looked before then. And Adamu will not need much motivation if there's a second place up for grabs here to absolutely go for this one. So Jack Howells, we saw how hard he defended first. How hard is he going to defend second?
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be, as you were saying, that if that is the situation that Howells is in, he may not actually be able to defend against Adamu, but we will see as the race continues. Sapler isn't that far off the back of Adamu either, and Francesco Adamu down to 1.2 seconds. That's not far off of slipstream range. I tend to say it's around about 0.8 of a second before you start feeling anything as far as slipstream is concerned. He's not far from that at all. As we look at Martin Mergeli, who's got himself a bit of breathing space from Lucas Kreutzer. Last time we saw the Porsche, he had the Toyota breathing down his neck. Well, Lucas Kreutzer has fallen a little bit off the bat of Martin Mergeli, and that is, yep, he had to tighten up his line there. That's Kabaki in the BMW, minding his own business, doing exactly what he should be doing, which is just running his own race, sticking to his own lines. That's slightly wrong-footed, the hypercar coming through. Oh wow, you'd feel that one if that's a hard old corner. But yeah, Adrian Kabaki, can he close back in on the Aston Martin of Liam Rance? Oh, not by doing that, you won't. The tail just can suddenly snap on Kabaki there. He caught it well, That is not what you want. You do not want to be losing confidence in the traction you have.
Yeah, that really puts into perspective the job that Giovannini has been doing, doesn't it? Because William has had to deal with the same characteristics on his BMW, the sliding at the rear through the more twisty technical part of the track, but he's absolutely made hay and used it to full advantage there. So yeah, Giovannini is making it look somewhat easier, but Kibaki, I think, just watching him shows how difficult the BMW is to drive through certain parts of this track. Oh, on balance, it is probably one of the better cars, as we say. I think those top three are the preferred cars around here, whereas the Aston Martin that Rance is driving, as you can see by that 11-10 gap, is probably a little bit slower. But of course, Liam Rance did gain a lot of time in the pit stops. We'll have to see if he's able to maintain that if Kibaki continues to start closing in again. Mergeli is starting to catch Sattler now, interestingly, 1.5 seconds behind him. So he started to, oh, look how much Cruisler has just disappeared out the back of this shot here. So he's had a couple of bad laps here. What we also heard from is that Jack Howes, essentially at the pit stop, he swapped to the exact same tyre configuration that Menard was using. So he went from hards on the left-hand side, kept the mediums it was already using. And I think he's been struggling with the balance because he was using all mediums before Jack Howes. And that's worked a lot better for him. Whereas he sort of responded to what Menard was doing because he saw how quick he was. But it's clearly not worked for him in 10. And in fact, it may well backfire spectacularly. So it'll be interesting to see at the final stop whether Jack Howes goes, right, enough of this, I'm going back to all mediums. Or if he decides, I'll just lose too much time at the pit stop, I have to struggle, I have to sort of duke it out and try and make this work then.
And that is second to third, Howes and Adamo. So, yeah, that would explain why Jack does not have that early pace that he was showing before. If that is the case, I'm somewhat surprised that the tyre configuration he was running was working. Yes, he was under pressure from Jimmy Menard, but it was still working well. So he's opted to potentially take a gamble and match the setup that Jimmy Menard is running. But it could well be not the setup that he has practiced. So again, he's not quite got the same level of confidence. He knows what his car is going to do on the setup that he has practiced. So he knows how hard he can push, how late he can brake and things like that. But if you start making changes to that, you will lose that a little bit of confidence. You don't push quite as hard. You don't brake quite so late. And that is potentially giving Francesco Adamu at least the opportunity to close right in. Now Jimmy Menard to run off into the distance. That said, we still have half the race to run. We've just crossed the halfway stage in this 2.4 hours of Fuji, and that is how the standings look as they crossed the line previously. So Jimmy Menard leading by 4.8 seconds near enough. Francesco Adamu, we are looking at staring at the tail of a potential second place if Jack Howes has not got the ability to, well, he has the ability to, but does he have the pace to defend is a little bit more accurate. Sattler in fourth has been there or thereabouts, hasn't he? He's still in definite race to be threatening a little bit later on. So Adamu gets a little bit uncomfortable coming into the braking zone of turn one. Martin Merkley, don't discount him. He's able to hang on to more in his tank than others potentially, so that could pay dividends a little bit later on. Kreuzer in sixth, Sobers seventh, Freire in eighth, Vasikas 9, and Demelians rounds out the top 10 of our hypercar contingent. Marvin Button and Stefan Kula still running. We still have all 12 of our starting hypercar contingent. So what does Francesco Adamu do? Does he push a little bit more to try and close in on Howes, or does he just continue to run the strategy? Exactly as you were saying earlier, Ed, it's really, really tempting to push harder than you realistically should. These guys, they're endurance veterans. They know what they're doing. They know how long they can expect their fuel tank to last. But it's very tempting, isn't it? You've got a position right there for the taking. It's really, really tempting just to push, but that can really, you'll get the benefit now, but you'll pay for it later.
Yeah, a couple minutes ago, they were all sort of in the 128 when Adamu's pace sort of started to stabilize. He's not been catching Howes at quite the rate of knots that he was earlier on. So he's sort of now he's tantalizing, almost within reach of that sort of slipstream. So he's getting the embers of it down the back straight as they go through Daiji once again. But yeah, we are not far away, about just 20 minutes or so away from the second pit stops essentially. So this is where it will get a little bit tight, especially for the people who pit a lap earlier than some of their competitors, especially Howells, of course, who finds himself now just trying to manage that fuel and the tyre imbalance that's clearly been affecting him in this second stint then. They are lapping in the low 29s now, so some of them are they're all having to really try and make sure that they aren't using too much more fuel than they can get away with, essentially. Mergely also within about 1.6 seconds of Zaplar, but yeah, you see, Howells very badly held up by the Aston Martin there. Neto, and immediately up the inside comes Adamu, who's not spotted in time by Neto there.
Oh, well, that was a very late move from Adamu. It did look like he was going to stay behind Belgior Neto there, but at the very last second, Adamu then dived for the apex, didn't want to be caught behind the Aston. I think the Aston may well have just misread that. I think that would just be a bit of a racing incident. I wouldn't say that Neto was completely at fault there, as I thought Adamu was going to stay behind him, and I suspect that Neto thought the same thing. A very, very late decision there from Howells, but Francesco Adamu now within a second of his prey. Howells now 7 seconds off the back of the race lead. I suspect he'll be making another tyre, well, when he does his next tyre change, he may well revert back to the setup that has worked well for him, as we see that was Metrol, wasn't it, in the Corvette. There he is, again proving very popular, but again doing the right thing, staying to the inside line, sticking to his line. He's not really fighting anybody. He is a lap down from the GT3 contingent, as that is one of the black Ferraris. It is Nick Dealey that they are just coming past. Thank you for that. But yeah, this has not gone well. This phase has not gone well for Jack Howells. But if he reverts back to his previous setup, the one that worked well for him, could he close in on Menard? It's not impossible.
Certainly not, no, but you've got to say Menard has been doing everything right in this stint and has maximised it fully, especially since getting through. So it's been a really thrilling battle, but you've got to say Jimmy Menard is in the box seats right now, and Adamu really needed to clear Howells a lot quicker than this to realistically challenge for victory here. But of course, on the fuel strategy, let's not forget in Hypercar, the man who went a lap longer than all of them was Sachin Sopis, who is still running in 7th behind Cruisler, isn't he? So we don't know, I can't remember exactly where he is in the order in terms of the gap from the update we did, or what was it, about 5 minutes ago. But yeah, I think we should keep an eye on Sopis in case everybody ahead of him starts to run out of fuel. It could get very, he's 21 seconds down, so he did lose a lot of time, but he's still just about in the mix, and he's got a big gap to Freyron behind him. So yeah, Sopis, I don't think is completely out of the picture so far, especially if everybody has got it very badly wrong in terms of not being able to go those extra 2 laps that he did in the first stint then. But yeah, this could get very, very tasty between Adamu and Howells then, with still about less than 17-16 minutes to go then before I think both of them might be coming in for their second stops. Certainly Howells will be very low quite soon.
And it's going to be that final stint, assuming it is a 2-stop strategy that most people are going for, and I imagine it is. But also bear in mind that Sobers ran his tank to near bone dry, so that could pay back dividends for him a little bit later on, although that has left him a long way off the back of the top 6.
Well, he didn't qualify all that well, did he? So he had to sort of make up ground.
True.
So it makes sense to roll the dice a bit for Sachin Sopis.
Yeah, fair point, well made. Now, question for you, Ed. So there's a spot in both fields. There's a reserve car available for you. Which car do you go for here in Fuji?
Okay. For the Hypercar, the Ferrari 499P seems like the obvious pick, doesn't it? I think certainly you look at the Platinum split, and obviously we saw Grigolado was incredibly quick in it. We saw Simic was able to get some pace. The Peugeot was actually pretty solid, the 9X8 as well. We've seen the Mergely get some good 1-lap pace out of the 963, and he had a good start. But I think overall, I think the Ferrari is probably the safer bet, isn't it? So I'd go there. In GT3, I think it's a little bit more split, isn't it? Because in Platinum split, everyone's gone for either the Aston Martin or, by and large, as we said, everyone's gone for either the Mustang or a couple of guys like Remy DeLorme went for the Aston Martin as well. And we've seen Liam Rance use it to pretty solid effect too, even though if we're talking about Fuji specifically, I think it's got to be between those top 3 manufacturers, the BMW, the Ferrari, or the Mustang. And I have to say, I think the Mustang will probably be my choice. I think the BMW is won here before. It's got big potential. I think I can see the argument for the BMW, but I think the Mustang is probably the slightly easier car to drive in terms of you just got to rely on that straight line speed and then figure out what to do with the corners when you get to them, as we've seen in that brilliant battle between Weissenberger and Yukamaki Yupi. But yeah, those would be my answers: Mustang and Ferrari 499P.
Yeah, those were the 2 that I was going for as well. Was the Ferrari Hypercar, certainly at the moment, with the way that the Ferrari Hypercar is performing against its contemporaries, you would be daft not to. You might try some of the others, but the Ferrari is certainly the most popular choice in like in particular. But it would be difficult to look away from the pace advantage that the Ferrari Hypercar is showing. I must admit, I am a little bit partial to the BMW, the GT3 feel, but I think the noise alone of the Mustang is something to behold. They all sound quite nice, if I'm entirely honest, but the Mustang, yeah, I would likely choose that one. But yeah, the growl that is given from the Ford, I know that production is quite a fan of this particular growl as well. But yeah, the few times I've done sim racing here in Fuji, that was a very, very long time ago. But last time I was actually in, it was a Mustang. It wasn't obviously in LMU. It was a number of years ago, but it was a Mustang GT4 that I was racing in. It was huge fun. Yeah, true to American form, or true to the American stereotype, it's a little bit of a pig to try and corner with it, but it done our shift when you are able to get the horses galloping. Isotta and Corvette, says James Howe in chat. Well, the Corvette's not been a particularly popular choice, so our sole Corvette rep. It's apparently a Cadillac, as I was calling it earlier on. Yep, and I told you production wouldn't let this go.
Well, they're really not. It's almost like 2.4 hours of just fleeing Chris Buxton here.
Oh, this goes back years. I've worked with Nick Domino for many, many years, but the Corvette is a gorgeous looking car, and it again makes a very, very delicious growl, but hasn't been able to show the kind of results that some of the other brands have.
Mind you, if you're starting out, if you're like Jerome Mitrell, who was there last season, I think he was in the Corvette last season, or was he in the? No, he was in the McLaren last season, and he switched to the Corvette. I think the Corvette's a pretty solid sort of beginner car if you're doing Le Mans Ultimate and GT3s. That it's not like an R52. The Corvette would spin around on you pretty much every time you hit the throttle, it seemed, for some of the, especially when they got to Le Mans and people would trim out the wings to get least drag possible. It would just end up, especially if it rained, it would just be spinning around like atop that car. But in Le Mans Ultimate, it's much more balanced. I think it's a very, like I say, a very good beginner-friendly car. We've seen drivers like Elise Buzita drove it in Sebring last season in what is now the Platinum Split, and he got a top 5 just by keeping it on the road and not making mistakes in a very wet, dry, wet race. Ooh. And he's doing this. He's in that car this season as well, so he clearly gets on with it. So I think there is a personal preference. If you're the kind of driver as a particular driving style, that there's sort of something for everyone with the amount of variety in both classes in Le Mans Ultimate. And I think that's a very good thing to see drivers sort of. You see drivers sort of chop and change between each season as we get through various different updates in the game, and suddenly shift the balance of performance around a little bit. It's all very close. Merkley was not going to lift off the throttle at all there as he laps Nico Barclay, does he? And Barclay actually starting to just ever so slightly lose touch with Bischoff. So Barclay's charge in that fight for second in GT3 has halted a bit, and it's similar for Adamu and Zaplar. They've sort of hit as a big lockup from Merkley, who's clearly just pushing to try and keep Zaplar in sight, and he's fallen about 7 seconds behind them. So still a big gap to Cruisler, 3.3 seconds. I say big, not massive, just big. So I guess the battle's starting to heat up, and Adamu starting to struggle already, because look at Zaplar within about 7/10 of him now.
Yeah, so there was some support for Adam Sapler earlier on. So the yellow Ferrari could well usurp the hold that the red Ferraris have held on the top three for quite a section of this. Also bear in mind that our second pit stop is not that far away, so that is likely to shake up the order once again. Okay, this is maybe a little bit further away than I thought it was. Looking at the again, we're judging the yeah, I thought it was a little bit closer than that, but closest to kind of 50 to 55 minutes is when the next stop is going to be. But of course, we saw a lot of people come in on a very similar lap or within a couple of laps of each other. Because not everybody comes in at the same time, the next stop, the similarity becomes that much more wider, doesn't it? So you'll have people coming in 3, 4, 5, 6 laps apart. So that's really going to be very, very telling. Who's been able to stretch out their stint for, maybe saving it for a last charge towards the end. Sapler is exactly as you say, Ed, getting close to Adamu now. So a definite challenge coming for third position in the Hypercar. I keep saying Hypercar cast. There you go. I'm just going to come up with it. In the Hypercar class, you can always rely on me for verbal cock-ups. That is one thing. That's one thing I've done for many, many years.
It's the old Willy Wonka line, isn't it? Scratch that, reverse it.
Yes.
So much time and so little to do.
You are far too young to remember that. So.
Funnily enough, old films do get repeated on TV. So, anyway, can't believe we're talking. It's just 1971 movies. We're talking about that, and not Steve McQueen's Le Mans, which feels like the way more appropriate one for this instance. But anyway,
so true.
Anyway. Gene Wilder's a lot funnier though than Steve McQueen, it must be said. Anyway, Adam Zapla has really been keeping the powder dry, and now he's got that big gap to Mergeli. There's him and Adamu on the same strategy as well. I think there's less incentive for Zapla to just hold steady. You may as well just go for it at this point. And all this has really allowed Howes to get that little bit of breathing room. He's now 10 seconds by Menard, but at least he's stopped the bleeding, as it were, in terms of hemorrhaging time. So he can hopefully now just focus on saving the fuel he needs to sort of make sure he's in a decent position in terms of fuel come that final stint then. But it still could be a little bit tight as we cut back to Sobers, who's slowly been chipping in to Lucas Krusler. I think Sobers' top 5, top 6 isn't completely out of the question, given how long he went. Look, 24% on the fuel. That's like 3 or 4% more in terms of virtual energy than the drivers ahead of him. So yeah, he's got another lap that he can go. So Sobers won't have to worry about fuel whatsoever. He can sort of afford to push, whereas those ahead, the only problem is he's got a big gap to push into, doesn't he? So yeah, but
that's it, isn't it? Is that he can push, but is there a particular benefit to him doing that? Also, we don't know what tires his tire plan is for the second half of the race. We're in the latter half of the race again. So we got Menard and House both running complete hards on their car. Mixture for Adamu, Kreuzer and Demolians, and all mediums for Sapler and Mergeli. Interesting, the softer car has not paid off for them in huge amounts, has it? Well, Sapler has got himself on the back of Adamu, yes, but it's not done an awful lot for Mergeli.
It could well be that Adamu sort of running into some of the same issues on those hard tyres that we saw Howells running into as well, and that's why he's being caught by Zapla at the present moment. Yeah, but Adam Zapla really may well have just been keeping his mediums alive for this precise moment as well. We saw that he wasn't exactly pulling away from Mergeli until a couple of laps ago then, as we are about to hit the 1 hour remaining mark then. So the race building to a climax, although Menard has just been assuredly building that lead up front then. Zapla, I think, a little bit too far back on this lap to make a do-or-die move on Adamu, but that cooperation, they seem to be sort of working together for most of this middle stint, haven't they? And now Zapla can see Adamu starting to struggle. That might be tested in the next couple of laps.
Could well be. I mean, they've built up a good nearly 8-second gap over the Porsche of Mergeli, so that cooperation has worked quite well for them in that respect. And again, Francesco Adamu, the only man lap under 128. So 127.983, which he did 10 or so laps to go now. But yeah, so he has got pace as yet unused in his Ferrari that he probably would like to use with the ever persistent Sapper right behind him. That is Howells, that is a little bit further up the road that we can see in this particular camera shot. So I would think Jack Howells would also prefer to have a little bit more breathing space than he's got from his pursuer, but either way, he's still got second position. We'll see if he does revert. If he does what I wonder if he'll do, which is revert back to maybe the hard medium combination he ran earlier on, or just run all mediums for his final stint. We will see. But the changes that Jack Howell implemented for that second stint, for this second stint, I should say, has not paid off particularly well for him at the moment. But at this stage, we are approaching 1 hour remaining in this race. It's Menard, Howells, and Adamu, your top three in the Hypercar class, and Giovannini, Bischoff, and Barkley, your top three in GT3s.
Yeah, but mind you, though, Howells was under pressure from Menard in that first stint, even when he was on the mediums, wasn't he? So he was sort of between a rock and a hard place, and not just in terms of his tyre choice, but he sort of had to try something, didn't he, to stop Menard from getting through. In the end, it just ended up backfiring. But when you're in the cockpit sometimes and you have a car behind you that's pressurizing you, the temptation is to sort of follow suit, essentially. Sometimes staying the same can be the sort of lesser of the two evils, but it's hard to see that. Now to put him, of course, in this position where he's got to sort of also, he's at a lap's fuel disadvantage relative to Adamu and Zapla. But the good thing for Howells is, as I said, Zapla is now starting to pressure Adamu. So Adamu can't really think about making a crazy move on Howells anymore because he hasn't got that buffer behind him. Zapla is very, very close to sort of that 8, 9, 10th margin that he needs in order to get that lovely bit of slipstream that's going to help him down the straights effectively. So yeah, Howells not comfortable, as you say, but he knows that if he can just hold on for the next 5 or 6 minutes or so, that should be enough to get him to the end.
Good being the operative word. So we will see whether
30% left there. It's going to be a bit tight. But is it a lap early now, and then the last couple of laps are, I've just got to coast to make it to the end, or get that out of the way now, and then you can sort of not worry about it as much for the final stint. So the temptation is keep track position now, but it might be better to lose track position now and then be able to push in that final stint and sort of level with these two in terms of fuel mileage.
Entirely what I would imagine is down to what the tyres feel like. Oh, Sapler had to take to the grass. Oh, he looked very indecisive, didn't he? Yeah, Macchioppi not happy with that particular moment. Oh, he was trying to apologise for it. The yellow Mustang, in my opinion, did nothing wrong there. I think that Sapler was a little bit indecisive. He thought, shall I, shan't I? It's easy to say in hindsight he should have held back just for that moment, but he doesn't want to lose time against Adamu. He's been working so hard to close that gap down, which has now cost him a good half a second over his prey. But, the Mustang did nothing wrong there. Macchioppi just held his line, just did what he had to do. As Adamu, he trusted the BMW would get off the line there. But Francesco Adamu working his way past, that is Kabaki, isn't it, in the 5th place BMW. Yeah, that was a little bit unfortunate for Sapler, but that's the nature of mixed class racing. Is if you are the fastest class, you've got to find your way past the slower ones. The last thing you actually want is for the slower class to jump out of the way. That some less experienced drivers in the slower class may think, I will get out of the way to try and be helpful, but sometimes that actually causes them to jump in their way, just as the hypercar, or in this case the hypercar class, commits to the move. Suddenly the GT3 car jumps in their way and they both end up going off in a very expensive mess. So that is why the slower class is told, stick to your line, stay predictable. The faster cars have the downforce to make it work around slightly uncomfortable lines. It's just unfortunately sometimes, as it did for Sapler, it does just catch them out. But that is the nature of the beast. They know what they sign up for. Sapler's got it to do again to close back down on Francesco Adamu.
Yeah, luckily it didn't cost him too much time, but I think Adam Zappler was probably expecting a bit more yellow car solidarity from Yuki Makiyuki, which I think Makiyuki, understandably, was not really expecting him to get there. Luckily for Makiyuki, he's in the battle of his own with Weisenberger, as he's been pretty much since the race began about an hour and 40 minutes ago. So they have been dueling for a long time, and even in the endurance races, often since last in R50, for instance, they will last like you might be in for the car for about 2 or 3 hours or so, which is almost as long as this race alone. But there's still a bit of endurance that comes into it. But yeah, for me, it was sort of a very tricky situation for both of them. Zappler sort of had to make his mind up to back off at Coca-Cola, which is not an ideal corner to be stuck behind the GT3 car because it's flat out. So if you lift off, you lose so much time relative to your competition. He took the risk, and the room wasn't quite there. And yeah, I think Makiyuki probably understandably a little bit annoyed with that one. But luckily, disaster was avoided, and the battle is still very much on. But now Adamu has got a little breathing space behind. Howes will now be under a bit more pressure than he was before. We've been hearing 1 minute ago 4 laps till the pit stop. So this lap and I think 2 or 3 more then of these drivers. I think Howes, this is where decision time comes into it, because he's got to make sure he makes that 7% count here.
Yeah, very much so. And as mentioned, Jack Howes is our championship leader in the hypercar class at the moment. He won last time out in Imola. It's Bonani, his main championship rival, not with us tonight. It's Zappler in third in the championship. He will want to get past Adami, who want to make every point count. Particularly, so does Francesco Adami. He's down in 8th in the championship. So, yes, we are still early in the championship. You still want to make every point count. But, yeah, I would imagine Jack Howes is very much looking in his mirrors with some trepidation. And as you say, Ed, he's going to be trying to make the decision, when do I come in? They will have had a plan. They would have rehearsed how far they're going to take their tanks and their tyres. But in the heat of battle, you do have to be amenable to making changes. Come in a lap earlier or a lap later, as we've seen some drivers do. You've got to be ready to make those adjustments on the fly. But you've got to figure out whether that adjustment is the right one to make.
Yeah, there we go. And the Corvette there diving out of everybody's way there in quite good time as well. But yeah, Zappler now much closer to the back of Adamu then. So Adamu kind of lost out a little bit on that lap. So it's ebbing and flowing between the 3 of them, isn't it? And at the moment, you have to say Howes, he's done a really good defensive job. The only problem with Menard was that Menard was way too strong to be able to hold back, essentially. And just a reminder, I did mention this at the very top of the broadcast just before qualifying, but we do have our sponsor, Coach Dave, of course, with the Coach Dave Academy. Definitely look in the description on our page on YouTube to check that one out as well, because they do a lot of one-to-one driver coaching as well. So we're being told as well, all the cars can make it to the end, which is one more stop then. So we are sort of below the margin where they can all pit and fairly comfortably make it to the end then. So we're sort of past the danger zone, as it were. It's just now it's a case of how much fuel can you use relatively quickly compared to those who might be just slightly tight in. Well, I can't go completely flat out, but I can comfortably get to the end there. As we see Freyrom hitting for the final time, and he's clearly got the same strategy info that we do.
Yeah, he was the first man into the pits on the first stint as well, so it makes sense that he would be the first to pull the trigger. Now, Merkley, interestingly, he was the one with the percentage advantage good 10 minutes ago, and that is now completely reversed. It's now Adamu of the top
pushing.
5.
This is his in-lap. He's pushing.
Yeah, so he's burning the battery to try and get his car into the pits as soon as possible. I mean, yeah, fair enough. That is what he's rehearsed. That is what he wants to do. And interesting, Menard with a 2% advantage over Howes. So Howes can't push. Well, he can, but just not as hard, potentially, to try and defend from those behind. So let's see. This looks like Jimmy Menard. Yeah, so in he comes. So race leader is coming into the pits this time, and he had a couple of percent, so he could have gone another lap, just about, on that fuel tank. So I would imagine surely Howells is going to come in as well. Adamu does not, and again, he didn't on the last in as well. So yes, that is Howells on the right-hand side just coming in. Sapler has chosen to continue.
3% for Sapler. That could be quite tight for him.
That is going to be tight. So he's throwing the dice here, but those behind all coming into the pits, and there is one of the Astons as well. Also doing
Merkley. Merkley was very low on virtual energy because it's gone red for him. There he is.
Wow, he really did push hard then to burn that down as much as he could get away with. So this final stint is going to be very, very intriguing. Who's going to... there are going to be those that are trying to short fill it to try and get back out on the road as soon as possible. But again, that could bite them. Then, Sapler, good grief, he's going to be nearly pushing his car into the pits.
Yeah, so that was Bischoff as well from the pit from second in GT3, and it looks like Rance is following him in. So that's exactly what we saw in the first stint as well. As there we go, that looks like Menard, as you'd expect, released first from the pits. Sobers, of course, it's got 5%, so he's trying to go the extra lap. As we saw, there is Jack Howells, and he's going to be released. He's got to hope that he has a decent outlap here just to make sure he doesn't get overcut by Sapler and Adamu, both on 2% here. They should have just enough, then they're surely coming into the pits at the end of this lap.
Well, it's going to go horribly wrong for them if they don't. And there goes Adamu into the pit lane entry. And so he will have a couple of seconds. Sapler, there he is. Sobers really ran his tank dry on the first stint. Is he going to do the same again? Fazekas could potentially. I would think that's going to be a bit of too much of a risk for Fazekas. We'll see what Sasha Sobers does. So he really threw the dice. He kind of almost straight on the pit lane entry. It looks like he's going to do it again. He is. So Sobers again in the Toyota, looking to really kind of play chicken with the fuel gauge. So Menard has refueled up to 82%. Now, again, it's 50 minutes. We've just seen kind of near enough 55 in this last stint, so they don't necessarily have to run to full, but that's quite a gap between where he is and the top of the tank. So we'll see if Jimmy Menard's calculations are correct. Otherwise, he's going to have a very hard time at the tail end instead.
Yeah. Yes. So that's without electric fuel, so we don't know exactly how much fuel has been put in the tank. So that's the sort of virtual energy battery percentage that we're seeing on screen. Sobers 2%, Fazekas 3%. There come Adamu and Sapler, quite close together actually, so slightly longer stop for Adamu. Jimmy Menard has gone through. Where is Jack Howells? Howells has gone back on the medium tyres, by the way, and should be quite close. Howells going around the outside of the pair of them, and easily gets back into a net second position there, but his gap is a little bit reduced, and again it's going to be Francesco Adamu and Adam Sapler. They've got more virtual energy in theory. I think Adamu's yet to update because he's not crossed the timing beam in the first sector there, as William Giovannini is coming back out on track and should be comfortably in the class lead, it must be said, from either Barclay or the Ferrari 66 of Bischoff, who is coming through now, having pit the previous lap, and yet easily keeps up ahead of Nico Barclay. But Barclay again is in the sort of Adamu position, isn't he, as well, of having pit later, has got a bit more fuel. So Sobers now comes into the pits from the lead, and Fazekas is surely following him in. So Jimmy Menard is going to re-inherit the lead, that 13-second lead that he had before the pit stops. 48 minutes left to go. Things are looking very good for him.
Very true indeed. William Giovannini, gap a little bit down from what we saw at the when he came out at the end of first in. Go on.
Martin Merkley's got a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane. Is what
oh no! So, he was pushing so hard in that last lap, wasn't he? He was burning the battery down. Speeding in the pit lane, that is a slam dunk penalty.
Yep, and I was so worried about running out of virtual energy that I was braking in time for that pit lane speed limiter engagement line that caught him out there. As we look now at Maki Yupi once more, frustratingly for the Finn, 1 second behind Weisenberger, as he has to have a second go at turning in there because he had to let the Ferrari through to lap it. is a sort of a running theme for all of the GT3s, of course, in this race. Bischoff, interestingly, has overcut his way to getting a bit closer to Giovannini. He was about 5 or 6 seconds behind, wasn't he, before the pit stop? Now he's 3.7 seconds behind. So Giovannini's done a spectacular job so far, but Bischoff has absolutely thrown the kitchen sink at trying to win this race, hasn't he? And it wouldn't take much for this result to change. For a little bit of a Hypercar appearing at the wrong time, a bit of misfortune, and Bischoff could steal this win. So Giovannini still needs to be absolutely on his toes here.
Very true. Along with Francesco Adamu, he's still got his rearview mirrors full of yellow Ferrari. Adam Sapler not giving up on that podium spot. So he's been closing in lap by lap by lap on the back of Adamu, and now no, it's Mercury, he's out. Oh no. So he'd seen that he got that penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Suddenly we just saw him part what I think was the outside of turn 15 of Net's corner. So from a potential top 5, Merkley is now out.
Yeah, that's a big shame. They're clearly frustrated with that drive-through penalty. Maybe felt it was a bit unfair. Yeah, Martin Merkley, who was so strong in the early phases of this race, clearly in not going to plan. His frustrations, not for the first time, must be said, got the better of him. But let's hope we see Martin Merkley back in action, because he can really take heart from his one-lap pace and from that brilliant start and his attacking performances. Say what you like about Martin Merkley, he always gives it his level best and loves to just go on maximum attack. It doesn't always work out for him, as has been the case today, but he's still absolutely spectacular fun to watch, and we should definitely praise him for the show he's put on today as Sapler taps the back of Weisenberger, and that's not good for Sapler, but it's especially bad for Weisenberger, because now Yuki Makiyuki is saying, hello again, my old friend. Have you come right?
Well, yes. Yellow Car Alliance kicking in there, you could argue, but no, there was nothing malicious in there at all.
Paying back for earlier.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, well, that is, Makiopi will very much enjoy that. Now, very much back in the hunt with Weissenberger. This battle for sixth has just not relented at all, or has barely relented between these two Mustangs. And now Weissenberger is going to be cursing that small error. Just a slight misjudgment. That's all that was between himself and the Sapler that was coming through. But now Weissenberger has got his mirrors very full once again of a yellow Mustang. So we'll see what he is able to do. If he's able to rebuild that gap at all. We are looking back from... Is that... No, Merkley's out, isn't he? He was. Of course, he's retired, so he's showing his 11th. That'll be why. So that caught me out there. I was thinking, we can't be watching from the back of Merkley. He's parked it. No, watching from the back of Julian Weissenberger. So that is what it looks like. Unfortunately, the rear wing is slightly awkwardly positioned for this one specific angle. As a couple more of the hypercars now closing in. So that's our Alpine. Oh, hello.
The 51 in trouble. Is that Adamu that's gone wide there? Or no, it's been a coming together. Howells has dropped to 4th.
Oh, so now was that Howells tangling with? No, we saw the Corvette of Metrol trying to get out of the way. Now, was he just trying to jump out of the way, or was there entanglement with the back marker? We don't know. We didn't see it. But Howells down to 4th. That is not the plan he would have had in mind whatsoever. Can he get back on pace?
Championship leader as well.
Absolutely.
So the limit of damage, Menard, who finished 7th in Imola, is now going to get a big payday. Of course, Jack House would still be in the lead of the championship by a much reduced margin than was looking to be the case a lap ago. So now he's really got to fight to get back past Sapler and Adamu then, who are surely now going to, in turn, get very defensive. Meanwhile, Kabaki is about 1.3 seconds behind Liam Rantz, so the battle for 4th is heating up. Rantz, who maybe was slightly quicker in that first stop, wasn't he? Spent a bit less time in the pits, is now feeling the pain of that. We also know that Bischoff, the reason he was able to close a couple of seconds of Giovannini, round goes Butsin! Just before the hairpin, but he's out of the way. Luckily, disaster avoided. I think Butsin just dropped it on his own there. But there's 2 laps now where Ferraris seem to be going all over the show in Hypercar. But yeah, Bischoff had 3% less virtual energy put in his pit stop, so he spent a little bit less time in the pits, and that's why Giovannini was closed in. But now Bischoff, I think, is starting to be dropped by him once again. So Barclay might fancy his chances of second, but I think Kabaki versus Rance is going to be the main GT3 fight, while meanwhile Jack Howells is going to be kicking it. Whatever happened, he's going to be very, very annoyed and desperate to get back on the podium here.
Oh, is it driver fatigue that's kicking in now? So people are now making mistakes. Oh, goodness me, can people kind of get back on with it? Can they kind of regain what time they've lost? So Sapler now having to be defensive against Howells. Sapler has been staring at the back of Adamu all race long, but now Julian Howells, he's going to have to kind of fight the urge to just let that red mist descend, because he's still got a strategy to play out. He's still got tyres to try and make last to the end. Again, if he's gone back to the mediums, they're not as hard wearing. They won't take lots and lots and lots of punishment. Again, he's going to be looking at his fuel gauge. All well, he may well have plenty enough to be able to push, but again, if he's playing a bit of Russian roulette with either the fuel gauge or his tyres, he can't just absolutely floor it. And again, if he lets the red mist descend, if he lets the frustration kick in, we've seen it with Mergley. Again, we don't know if that was why he retired, but we didn't see any particular damage to the car. We didn't see anybody else parked up with him, so he may well have just let frustration get in the better of him. But Howells very much back on the case and looking to try and knock Sapler back out of the podium positions.
Yeah, having a look up the inside, the gap's there, and side by side they go. Sapler holds on round the outside as they go into nets, and then it's Jack Howells again up the inside. Oh, there was not enough room there as Sapler turns in round the outside. Somehow they both survive, and it continues as if nothing happened, but that was scary. Jack Howells was nearly around there, and I have to rescind what I said a minute or two ago, because it's an endurance round. So Jimmy Menard is looking at 39 points. Jack Howells would only be getting 19 for fourth then, so it's absolutely critical that he gets through here.
It is, that's why he's pushing so hard. We're now in the closing stages, just 40 and a bit minutes to go, side by side, but that's going to put Howells on the outside line. We've seen how this move just doesn't work. He's tried to keep the traction, but no, he's on the dirty part of the circuit and does not have the traction to keep Adam Sapler behind him. So now it is all defensive for Sapler. That's going to back him away from Adamu, who's now been gifted second position. Jack Howells, I mean, he's certainly got the pace to do it. Jumps out from behind the yellow Ferrari, gets the inside line of turn 6. So it's all kicking off now. You can see the Ferrari just squiggling there as Howells gets the power down. That's going to give an opportunity back to Sapler, and closing the door very much on Sapler does Jack Howells. Pass on the inside line, but he's going to go too deep. Is he into turn 10? That's going to bring the two Ferraris slightly alongside. Can they make it worse? Sapler, what a move. Gets back up into third. Oh, game on.
Yeah, you saw Howells actually made a textbook move into that hairpin at turn 6. But then he got way too defensive offline, and that forced him to break that a little bit too late. That allowed Sapler to just breeze back around the outside with just enough room left between the two. Fantastic racing between the pair of them. Of course, it means Adamu is now 3.6 seconds up the road. So the more they fight each other, the worse it really is for Howells, because it means you can see the chance of getting back up to second is disappearing by the minute. Meanwhile, Kabaki is coming back at Liam Rance, and this is where the British driver has got to use all the tools at his disposal in that Aston Martin to hold on to that fourth position and start his championship in earnest in the best possible position. Meanwhile, Maki Yupi, he is not done with Weissenberger either, desperately wants a chance at that 6th position, and he's going to try every trick in the book to snatch it from him once again.
Yeah, very, very true. So we've got several battles, and look at Howells sliding his way past the Aston Martin. That isn't Liam Rance. We know there's Neto, yes. It's Liam Rance is tied up with the BMW of Adrian Kabaki at the moment. Jack Howells, he's so desperate. He doesn't want to just bin it. He doesn't want to just chuck the car in and actually risk losing that position. And here we go. That's Makiyoki again on the back of Weissenberger, side by side, much earlier this time on the run down towards turn 1. Who's got the bigger braking testicular fortitude? Well, let's see. Does Weissenberger outbrake himself? Makiyoki has the inside line, but it's going to force him to the outside line again as they come down towards turn 3. Oh, side by side, Weissenberger trying to hang on, trying to outbrake the Finnish driver again. That's going to wrong foot him, but that's going to put the yellow Mustang on the outside line for the long 100R. It remains sixth position remains in Weissenberger's hands for now, but he's going to have all kinds of defensive work. There's a yellow flag out there somewhere. Who's binned it? And that's
Liam Rance.
That's Liam Rance. He's lost his rear wing. Oh no, he's had decided he was up to fourth, and now he's going to have to bring that Aston. That thing is going to be
has he collided with Kabaki? That's the question here. Kabaki seems okay. Doesn't look like the car's mishandling itself. So maybe Liam Rance has dropped it on his own under pressure, trying to defend there.
Or Kabaki, they have come together. And there you go. There's no downforce on that Aston Martin. Liam Rance doing the right thing, waiting for people to come past him.
Well, he dropped it. He had to get off the road.
Well, yeah, exactly that. That's what the yellow flag is for. But it could have been that Rance and Kabaki came together and the outcome was Rance going off the road backwards into the wall. We don't know. We didn't see. But at the moment, it is now battle for fifth position. Weissenberger going almost into the pit lane to defend against Makiyuki. And once again, the two Mustangs side by side. It's a repeat of the previous lap, and likely going to be this way till the checker flag falls. Now, Makiyuki actually gets ahead of Weissenberger, but Weissenberger's still on that inside line. Who's going to be bravest on the brakes coming into turn one? Makiyuki manages to shut the door, and fifth is his for now, but he has been ahead of Weissenberger once or twice, but only a few times, and Weissenberger has attacked him back successfully in the course of the lap. Also, third position for Hypercars is still very heavily contested. Sappler and Howes still arguing for the last podium spot, but that's backed them away to nearly 5 seconds from Adamu.
Yeah, that was very, very dicey between Makiyuki and Weissenberger, because turning in from the outside down the straight can very easily backfire. And is that Liam Rance out of the race then? That is a huge shame for him.
Oh, no.
He was holding on to that fourth place quite convincingly, and clearly with 35 minutes to go, that's not enough time to really recover from those repairs then. So the damaged terminal for Liam Rance is again a big dive at the hairpin for Jack Howes, who goes side by side with Adam Zappler. The doors bang once. Do they bang again as Zappler tries to get the inside through 300R, and he's still there coming towards Dunlop. There's also the Peugeot trying to unlap itself in the background, but it's Zappler on the inside through Dunlop there, but it is Jack Howes that hangs on round the outside, the wheels spinning wildly. Red Ferrari versus yellow Ferrari. Can Jack Howes get back on the podium? He's going to try, but no! Adam Zappler refuses to yield. Fantastic fight.
Well driven from both of them. Now the Peugeot can unlap itself. You are allowed to unlap yourself from your own class as long as you do not impede the cars you are unlapping yourself from. I think the Peugeot's just got a great ringside seat for the battle for third. And Howes are giving it everything. Those rear tyres are probably absolutely mullered, or they are boiling hot. Either way, they are just failing Howes at the worst possible moment. And there's battle for fifth in GT3s. Hasn't given up either, as Makiyuki now actually gets his name on the tower for the first time all race long. But he's defending from Weissenberger for all he's worth. 34.5 minutes of this. Yes, please.
Yeah, so Liam Rance's loss is Makiyuki's gain, and potentially Weissenberger's as well, if he can find a way back through, as he has at multiple points in this race and is threatening to do immediately right now. But let's keep our eyes as well on that Howes-Zappler battle, as Jack Howes refuses to give up in his quest to get back on the podium. But for Jimmy Menard, nearly 17 seconds ahead of Francesco Adamu, he is looking potentially at not just a first win here in the gold split, but also taking the championship lead with 34 minutes left to go. You can even see in the background there is Zappler under attack, and they're about to lap this battle, as that is Adamu trying to find a way through, I think, on Weissenberger and Yuki Makiyuki at the same time, and has to really gingerly get on the throttle just to not understeer into the side of them there. But yeah, Weissenberger waiting his moment, and Adamu actually getting quite badly held up here.
Well, again, he probably has conceded that he's not going to close in the gap to Menard, but doesn't want to just send himself or anyone else off into oblivion, so opting the safer option there. Costing himself a good 2 seconds on Menard, but these two still locked in battle as Zappler and Howes for third in the Hypercar class. They're going to bounce their way past fifth position GT3s, the two Mustangs. Or Zappler's going to be slightly held up there. The yellow car alliance is not serving him this time. And Howes had nowhere to go. He couldn't bounce around the outside of Zappler. but he's doing everything he can to try and wrong foot the yellow Ferrari. But at the moment, Saplar's doing a superb job in soaking up all this pressure. And again, that's Howes. He's gone for that inside line into turn 6 again. Oh, bit of a contact between the two. That's wrong-footed Saplar. So that is the advantage that Howes was looking for. A little bit bullish. Not sure what the stewards are thinking about that one, but Saplar fought his way back before. Can he do it again?
Yeah, Saplar sort of he left the door open coming out of 100R, and then that allowed Howes up the inside, and then I think Saplar was going to turn in, saw that Howes was there, and had to sort of steer out of it to avoid contact, essentially. So yeah, it was sort of Saplar, he should have known from the last couple of times that Howes tried to do that Howes was going to try something again. So I think a little bit sort of caught wrong-footed there, as you say. But yeah, nonetheless, he's still going to be in the slipstream. Just how much of his tyres has Saplar used up trying to defend from Jack Howes the last couple of rounds? We also have a comment from Liam Rance. He says, just ran out of room with a hypercar on my outside, tapped his rear, and I ended up worse off. So he didn't say which hypercar, so that was quite nice of him to conceal the identity of the perpetrator. But that is a huge shame for Liam Rance to be taken out by someone outside of his class. It happens a number of times at Fuji. It actually happened with at that turn 6 hairpin in Contender last season between, was it Lexi Taylor and Vaskin Simonian, who was actually the race winner in GT3 controversially. He actually sort of kind of ended up, Lexi Taylor turned in from the outside and made contact with that BMW and ended up coming, it was the hypercar that came off worse on that occasion. So yeah, it is one of those ones where the two races converge and not always to the benefit of either class.
No, and again, that's the nature of mixed class racing. You will have, because you have such a pace deficit between the classes, it's an unfortunate, complete error, and fair play to you, Liv, for kind of holding your hands up to that one. Unfortunately, odds are it was Jack Howes that you kind of caught the tail of, but I mean, who it is kind of academic at this point. Bit of a shame to see Liam park it, but I'd say first race longer than 20 minutes on this game, so I learnt a lot. If 20 minutes was your longest stint in LMU and you went to this, wow, that's quite a leap, sir.
To be fair, he's done much longer stints than the 2 hours 40 minutes.
In others, yeah, I grant you that. So it's not like, yeah, Liam is a very experienced endurance racer entirely, but yeah, each sim has its own little quirks and foibles and what have you.
I've seen him in an Aston before, though, so there is a novelty to that at least.
So I mean, I was still fair, but I couldn't do it. About 40 minutes is about as long as I can manage. 45 at an absolute push. So going 2.5 hours, even an hour, is way beyond me. So I hold these drivers in huge respect for actually seeing out the distance.
Yeah, speaking of which, we've got 30 minutes left to go as Weisenberger, feeling the pressure, goes a little bit wide. The front of that Mustang looks like it's been a little bit too close for comfort to the back of Maki Yippee for large chunks of this race, isn't it? Because it looked a little bit crumpled. Only cosmetic damage. I don't think anything that will be affecting the handling at this point. But yeah, it's been a fantastic duel between the two of them for what ultimately looks like it's going to turn out to be 5th position. And that could be the only position in GT3 that changes in this last half hour. Meanwhile, here is Adamu, 21 seconds down on Menard, 3.5 seconds ahead of Howes now, who is past Zapla, as we say. So yeah, Jack Howes is not given up yet on that 2nd position, and now he's released from Zapla, could well start pumping in lap times. So Adamu might well look a bit worried at this point, because there's a major problem coming up in the rearview mirror.
Indeed, and he's going to have 28 3/4 minutes to deal with it. And Sapla's not fallen too far off the back of Howes yet, but Howes still with a fair amount of defending to do. That is how, so that's how our GT3 contingent look. William Giovanni hasn't lost, well, the only time he's lost the GT3 lead is during pit stops, and it's always been, whilst on track, in his possession by over 5 seconds or near enough. So Marco Bischoff has got that 2nd position near Nico Barkley. Those three have had the podium spots pretty much to themselves all race long, and everyone else behind them has been fighting for everything else. So Kabaki in 4th, Nakiobi now up into 5th position following Liam Rance's retirement, with Weisenberger hot on his heels. Nick Dealey in the black Ferrari has been hanging on in there. With Belchior Nito and Jerome Metral in the Cadillac disguise, Cadillac disguised as a Corvette. With, as we say, our retirements from the GT3. We lost Nono Masher very early on in the race, 47 laps ago now. So well, there is Weissenberger actually dueling with that's Stefan Köhler in the Alpine. So the Alpine trying to mind his own business. The reserve driver for this race. It's a couple of laps down from the overall pace, but again, still hanging on in this, still surviving. That in itself is no mean feat.
Yeah, he's not. He may be 2 laps down on Butzin, but if anything happens up front, there's still a final point up for grabs here. So good on Stefan Köhler to stick with it, despite we're having a few issues in this race. Good to see the Alpine still put through its pace and Stefan Köhler gaining experience. Like Liam Rand said, some of these drivers, they may not. It may be the gold split, and these are the guys that are sort of quick enough. Some of them probably quick enough to make an impression in the Platinum Spirit as well, particularly the top 3 that get promoted at the end of the season. But like Liam Rand said, not all of them have experience of doing this long distance in Le Mans Ultimate, purely because a lot of the daily races and stuff are just not that long, because they just want to fit more of them in. So anyway, Zappler has started to fight back a bit. He's within 3 tenths now of Jack Howes. So Howes has lost a bit of time to Adamu, as we see Weissenberger just trying to keep the pressure on Maki Yupi. But Maki Yupi is wise to it, and you see the lights flashing on Weissenberger. He can see time running out here. He needs to make something stick here and just keep the pressure on, because there's every chance that an opening might open for him.
Yeah, you never give up until that checkered flag falls. So we'll see what they are able to do in these remaining 26 minutes, as Weissenberger getting very close. Also bearing in mind, 2.5 hours, 2.4 hours is a long time to be just constantly, lapping. You got to think that we are, 50 odd laps in? And that's a long old time to be behind the wheel. All it takes is just, Weissenberger there, for instance, just to make that tiny mistake. All it takes often is one mistake, and that completely changes the whole complexion of your race. You've been fighting for hours, and one mistake that may not even be yours, could be someone else's mistake, completely changes things. So they cannot lose that focus. And like I said before, I don't know how they manage it. Well, they do it because they practice and practice and practice and practice. You've got to think that even though this is the gold splits, not quite the top split, this is still some of the best in the business.
Indeed it is, and a lot of these guys have proven themselves elsewhere as well. Maki Yupi has done a lot of R-Factor 2 in particular as well. But Weissenberg, you saw some of his lines there. He was going very, very tight through the sort of twistier section. Nicolas Dominos, this is the longest race distance possible in the Mon Ultimate. The next longest is 2.4 hour, which is 2 hours 24 minutes. 2 hours 40 is the longest then, as again Weissenberger sort of understeering through that tight hairpin at turn 1, but you can tell he's just trying these unusual lines to put Maki Yupi off and sort of surprise him essentially. And he's flashing his lights like crazy, because like you said, every tool at his disposal, Union Weissenberger will deploy then, as here comes the Ferrari. I think that's Jimmy Menard about to lap the pair of them. Cap to remember him by from Julian Weissenberger.
I mean, that in itself won't cause an awful lot of heartache for Jimmy Menard. As we now look at Adamu, very much on his own, nearly 25 seconds behind Menard now. 3.5 seconds now. Is Howes really pressing on? Because it's 3.2 seconds. I'm sure that gap was higher than that when Howes and Sappler were arguing. So is Howes not giving it? Well, I guess if he thinks he's got the tyres and the fuel, why not burn everything out? Do your best to close that gap down. Well, he's only a couple of percent behind Adamu, so he is pushing. Is he going to have enough to see him to the end? Like I say, they've got to have over 1% in the tank. But you can see how that Ferrari is sliding. Everyone has been sliding in these slower corners. But Jack Howes is throwing a bit of caution to the wind now and pushing for everything he's got.
Well, as long as he doesn't run out before he hits the line, as long as he's got 0.01% or whatever, he should be fine, I think. But yeah, it could be, because he is the one that hit the earliest of that group. it will be a little bit tight then, as we see there is William Giovannini looking to go on to what would be his first win of the season then, and one that could well put him in that championship lead, especially with Weissenberger outside the top 5 here as well. This could be a very profitable day for Giovannini. I think Bischoff might be quite close. I mean, taking 2 second places in a row, he might actually be in the overall championship lead, but we'll have to see. Remember, there is in Platinum Split at least, there is the Sprint Cup and the Endurance Cup as well, so I don't know if there'll be a similar thing in the Gold Split. Certainly not in terms of prize money, but in terms of this sort of a little unofficial championship, who's doing better in endurance compared to sprint races, essentially. So we're being told Howells is gaining roughly about 2 tenths per lap at the moment, so he should catch before the end, but whether he can get through is another matter entirely, as Weissenberger, he's starting to lose a little bit touch with Makiyubi. Maybe he senses, as the sun sets here in Fuji, in the land of the rising sun, that time is running out here, and he needs to make something happen in these last 20 minutes.
Or land of the setting sun, as it may well be, as Weissenberger nearly runs a little bit wide. Again, yeah, he could be just kind of conceding defeat or just giving himself that little bit of a break. You've got to bear in mind that these two have been locked together all race long. I bet you they sleep very well tonight, because they've just been constantly concentrating on each other. And again, staying out of the way of what I suspect is a Damu that is coming through. It is, because that's Howells closing in as hard as he possibly can to try and regain that second position. You got to think, yeah, it's just 2.3 seconds between Adamu and, oh no, sorry, that's backwards. That's between Howells and Saplar. So, yeah, Jack Howells, he's still very much throwing caution to the wind. You can see there there was a 2 tenths gain for Howells, so he's not gaining huge amounts, but he's still eating away at that gap as he's just cleared the traffic himself of those 2 Mustangs. There comes Saplar to do the same. Weissenberger is still kind of just staying there, staying where he needs to be. Like I say, if he's not constantly attacking,
late on the brakes.
Late on the brakes. Also, I think that was a bit of a lockup there from Makiyubi, so it could be that Weissenberger is just giving himself that little bit of breathing space, although it gets really crossed up coming out of turn 12. A little bit more power than adhesion there, as around both of them. Well, who thought about it was Köhler in the Alpine, again doing the sensible things.
Cadillac.
Oh no, it's Freyrum, yes. Beg your pardon. See, I'm getting everybody wrong. As yeah, that's I beg your pardon. There's Romain Freyrum in the wrongly coloured Cadillac. I thought he was going for the pit lane for a second there, but no, he was just giving the wide berth to the Mustangs. So yeah, I wonder if Weissenberger is just giving himself a little bit of kind of as much as you can, a bit of a breathing space, a bit of a breather, bit of a rest, and then going to have a go at Makiyubi before the checkered flag falls. But we will see as one of the Peugeots coming up behind this pair.
The only Peugeot. Oh no, there's 2. There's the Molians and Bezekas, I think, is the other one.
Indeed so.
Bezekas.
Barnabas Bezekas in the Peugeot, indeed correct. So we haven't seen an awful lot of the Peugeots. So they've been more towards the tail end of the Hypercar contingent, but still lapping on, still doing what they need to do. Is Freyrum come into the pits? I thought he was aiming for the bits and then moved away, but according to my timing screen, he's in the box. Is the Cadillac coming in?
Is the Alpine? No, he has.
No, he is still running, so the timing screen is lying to him.
Made his 2 stops. He did have a big spin before the first stop, so that was why he went the extra lap. I think he had some sort of issue in the first stint that's he's since resolved. But yeah, only 4 seconds in himself in Demolians, so Olivier Demolians might fancy a crack at 8th position there in that Peugeot then, so we can't rule out a late move here. It'd be interesting to see if Demolians is able to do anything on the virtual energy relative to Freyrum, but I think Freyrum should be fairly comfortable on that front, so it's just going to come down to raw pace between the pair, and I'm not certain that Demolians has got it in that Peugeot, unfortunately for him.
I love that comment in chat I've just spotted. What a crazy matchup. The German and the Italian car versus the Italian and the German car. Yes, very well. I hadn't actually spotted that all race long, but yeah, fair point. Fair point, well made. As
Giovannini and Bischoff, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. And there is Marco Bischoff in the Ferrari. We did wonder whether he was closing in on Giovannini, but it doesn't seem to have happened. They've stayed around about that 6-second gap, but Weissenberger still nailed to the back of the fin of Marco Yappi. Is he going to be able to do anything? Can he just find that extra bit of pace? Well, Juha has been buzzing around his tail all race long, and he's going to want to hang on to that top spot, that top 5 spot. 17.5 minutes to go until the checkered flag falls.
Yep, we are definitely in the dying stages of this race then, and Adamu started to fight back a little bit against Howells. He's actually got a couple of tenths back on Menard, but Menard's lead is such that he's not going to be troubled at all then in these final couple of laps, going to afford to just take it very, very easy and still win at a canter then. It's been brilliant, hasn't it, by Jimmy Menard and Will Giovannini as well. Both of them have been absolutely exemplary. Giovannini's not going to win by quite the same margin, but again, it's a little bit more with the BOP. It's a little bit closer. It's very hard to pull away in GT3, I think, compared to Hypercar, because there's less you can do on sort of offset tire strategies and things like that. In terms of your where you allocate them on the car as well, you sort of just plonk the mediums on and just hope that you can get the best out of it on the day and stay out of trouble, of course, which Giovannini has done a brilliant job of. And Bischoff has sort of had the odd lap where he's gained time back, but Giovannini's always had an answer for him. There's never been any danger of Ferrari getting particularly close. But speaking of Ferraris getting close, here are Jack Howells and Adamu. So Adamu continues to be closed in upon as the two Ferraris from the different classes converge and then disappear from out of view from one another. But yeah, Jack Howells is still not giving up then on this second position then, as he's got to get past the sole remaining Aston of Neto that leaves enough room up the inside. I think Neto was, if anything, a little bit surprised he showed up when he did there. There was a brief yellow there, but it cleared quickly, so I assume somebody just went a little bit wide on corner exit. But yeah, Jack Howells knows this has to be a very, very strong final 15 minutes to get onto the podium, and Adamu knows he, in theory, has got the advantage here if he can just keep track position.
And Jack Howells has actually got the fastest lap of the race. The only other man to lap under 128. The only other man to have done it is the person he's chasing, is Francesco Adamu. So the fastest lap has gone to Jack Howells by a huge 0.004 of a second. So you can't say Jack Howells is leaving anything on the table. He is pushing with absolutely everything he's got left.
Yeah, wasn't that the gap between the two of them in quality as well, or something like that, wasn't it? But yeah, it was 7 thousandths.
7,000. Oh, yeah, a huge chasm of a gap.
Yeah, and an extra 3 thousandths there. It makes all the difference. But anyway, nonetheless, it's great to see them really putting this Ferrari through its paces. Then, even as there's certainly a bit of fatigue creeping in because they've been driving for 2.5 hours at this point, all of them. So yeah, everybody desperate for release. For Howells, though, he knows he hasn't come this far just to take a third position. He wants at least to finish on the middle step of the podium and keep his title hopes alive against Jimmy Menard, rather than letting him get all the big endurance points here. He wants to at least hold on to the lead in that championship. So this is a slower lap than his fastest, but only by a couple of attempts in each sector then, as we start our next lap. So I think we're closing in on 100 laps in this race then. With 14 minutes left to go, we should certainly exceed that before the finish. And Menard's lead 25.9 seconds then, as Howells knows he's got 1.5 seconds is the gap he's got to breach. But can he do it, Chris? Because there's a lot of pressure, there's not a lot of time, and even if he does catch up, he's got to find a way around him. It's the same issue that Julian Weissenberger has found. Staring at the back, his eyes are going to be singed bright yellow from his monitor at the end of this one. He's going to be seeing bumblebees everywhere he looks, or seeing Mackie Yuppies everywhere he looks, because that's all he's seen all evening. And now he wants finally to get back through again. But let's hope neither of them gets pushed into the pit wall on this occasion, because that very nearly happened with Mackie Yuppi's last pass. But Weissenberger is going to be wise to any defensive moves here, as Mackie Yuppi immediately goes to the inside, tries desperately to break the toe and snake his way down that start finish straight. He wants rid of him. Weissenberger isn't going anywhere.
Well, yeah, I was going to say there are some that very much frown upon that kind of weaving. Some argue that he is breaking the toe is not a defensive maneuver because... Oh! No! Well, Weissenberger, that's not how you do it. And he's relinquished the position. Yeah, he's flash of the lights there in apology, I would think. But oh dear, it's getting a bit scrappy in this battle for 5th position. I think Weissenberger was somewhat perturbed by the weaving of Marchioppi there, who runs a bit deep. Oh goodness me, that's 2 different ways you can take 100R, and Weissenberger thought about diving on the inside line of turn 6, chose not to do it as that comes past one of the Ferrari hypercars.
It's Menard, isn't it?
There's Menard, isn't it? His race leader. You don't blame him either. So so that, and then Adamu is Adamu's got less than a second now between himself and his prey. Oh, and that's a mistake from Marchioppi. That's given Weissenberger an opportunity, and he can't capitalize on it. He was forced to the outside line coming through 11. Didn't fancy doing any lawn mowing in the Mustang, so Marchioppi barely hangs on to 5th position.
Yeah, Weissenberger didn't really quite have enough overlap to complete the move on exit there. You can tell Marchioppi is either pushed the tyres a bit harder, it's just really feeling the pressure with just 11 minutes left to go, and he's going to have to fight like crazy to hold on to this 5th position. Weissenberger, meanwhile, wants to limit the damage in the championship, knows Bischoff and Giovannini are going to get a huge march on him at the end of this one, so he needs to try and get into top 5 if he can. But Marchioppi determined not to let that happen by weaving all the way down the straight, and then Weissenberger had that collision on the previous lap into the Daichi hairpin, and again he almost tries to dive in from very far back. Weissenberger is just very late on the brakes all the time, isn't he? And I think that's really what's catching Marchioppi out as he flashes his lights at him again, as if to say, go on, get out of the way.
Yes, I don't think Marchioppi is going to be jumping out of the way of Weissenberger at the moment as the Black Mustang hugs that inside line.
Owls should have been about 6/10 as well while this is going on.
Oh, Weissenberger tried to get that momentum to get the inside line at turn 6. Marchioppi kept the door shut, but the tail of the Black Mustang gets a bit loose. Oh, they come together, but both of them hold on to their respective positions very, very well as round them comes the Alpine of Güler. But, oh my goodness, this could go horribly wrong at any particular moment. Oh, that's impact again. Weissenberger, too late on the brakes that time, nudges the back of Marchioppi, and they remain where they are. And right behind them, look at that, that's the spat of a second in the hypercar class. Adamu and Hals are together.
Yeah, and they're going to have to get past these two in order to decide who is going to finish second in the hypercar class. But yeah, Weissenberger takes not one bite, but 2 very, very big chomps at the back of Marchioppi's diffuser there on that Mustang. It's amazing that it still works after that, and amazing that they're both facing in the right direction around the track. But yeah, Weissenberger not leaving anything on the table. He is just absolutely going for it. And to be fair for Marchioppi, he is defending very, very well and sort of matching him blow for blow for blow around the Fuji Speedway here. But with time running out, Weissenberger knows he might have to do something desperate here, and it's a similar situation for Howes. As look at that, Adamu can't clear them before turn 1, and now Howes is going to be right on the back of that second place Adamu.
Oh, that's getting, you see, actually, the Black Mustang jumped out of the way of the 2 Ferraris, and that's Howes trying to capitalize on it, can't do it. Before they get down towards turn 3, Adamu's got it all to do. 9 minutes still on the clock. He's going to be glaring at that timer, wishing it to go away. But Adamu has got to fend off Howes. Howes again looks at the inside of turn 6. I think also so did Weissenberger, but could not get it done. My goodness me, this is absolutely incredible. 2.5 hours down, and it's all down to these last 10 minutes as side by side Adamu and Howes. Howes has the outside line again, can't get it done, trying to cut underneath Adamu, and Adamu, brilliant defensive driving, and Howes gets along on the outside. They come together just. That forces Adamu very, very deep. Howes, I think, backed out of that, realized that was his mistake. He hasn't got many laps left to do it, to try and wrestle the second position out of Adamu's hands.
Yeah, Howes and Adamu locked wheels there, and that was what forced Adamu to sort of understeer off track on the exit there into turn 13. So yeah, hopefully neither of them took any significant damage from that one there, but yeah, it's getting very, very dicey between the pair. You saw as well, just Adamu, knowing that he was sort of offline, having to get defensive into Dunlop, sort of that compromised his exit completely, and that was what almost opened the door, and I think that was what Howes was relying on. But yeah, brilliant defensive round from Francesco Adamu. And Jack Howes kept at bay once again, but now Weisenberger knows there's only a few more laps left in this race, and Makiyupi is just fending him off, and every time there's a little opportunity, suddenly a hypercar comes through to lap the pair of them, and Weisenberger is sort of forced to let them go or form a mobile chicane with Makiyupi as well. So it's not ideal for anybody, but yeah, Makiyupi just barely holding his car on track on the exit of some of these corners. He is pushing like crazy for that 5th position. He knows how important this is, not to lose ground in the championship at this early phase of the season. Makiyupi is just absolutely immovable in that 5th position right now.
God, unstoppable force meeting an unmovable object in several ways in this race. 7 minutes to go as our Mustang duo, our dueling Stangs, still at it. Weisenberger not giving any quarter to Makiyupi, and just the same as Makiyupi didn't give any quarter in return. Adamu still ahead of Howes as they come onto the start-finish straight once again. Now, can Jack Howes, championship leader, get back into 2nd position, in which he was dethroned from the race lead fair and square by Jimmy Menard quite a while ago. So that the race lead is well and truly out of his reach unless disaster strikes Menard in the closing 6.5 minutes. But there's no particular reason for that to happen. We've all seen it though. You know, cars with a comfortable lead can still tangle up with backmarkers, can still make that one mistake. But, I mean, our eyes are on 2 distinct battles. Battle for 2nd in Hypercar and 5th for GT3.
Yeah, we're expecting 106 laps to be completed by the Hypercars and about 94, I think. For the GT3s then. So, yes, there we go. Weisenberg again just has to let the Peugeot through. And, as here we go back to that 2nd place battle. Blocking off. Again goes Adamu into Dunlop there through 300R, and again he has to get offline on exit through the chicane. Is Jack Howes gonna see the inside open up again? This time he thinks better of it, decides to wait for the start finish straight with 5 minutes left. He's only got a couple more opportunities then. So how desperate does Jack Howes get here, and how crazy will Adamu get on defense here? Francesco desperate to take what would be his best finish to date in the gold split with that 2nd position, but Jack Howes, power sliding at the final corner, desperate to take it from him.
Traction failing, and Jack Howes at a crucial moment there at the exit of the Panasonic corner. So that's heartbreaking for Jack Howes. He's trying so hard to get Francesco Adamu out of position, get wrong foot his prey. But the tyres, there's just not enough grip left in them at the point that he desperately needed it. Fantastic stuff. Less than 5 minutes to go. That's 4 laps probably at best. So Makiyupi and Weisenberger still locked in battle for their step within the top 5. And Adamu and Howes fighting over who has which step on the podium.
What a drive it's been from Makiyupi and Weisenberger, it must be said, but look at this, Howes all over the back once again. He just gets such a good launch out of turn 6, doesn't he? That was where he was really strong when he was fighting Adam Zappler as well. And again, Adamu forces Howes to the outside. This time Howes sort of hangs back a little bit, waits for a better opportunity, tries to get the exit from the Dunlop chicane for 11 and 12, now into 13. Again, not quite enough overlap to slip up the inside. And again, Jack Howes has got to wait for the final corner. This time, needs to be a bit more patient on the throttle here, but also can't afford to let any time slip.
No, indeed. Zappler is about 4 seconds back, so it's unlikely for him to play a part in that podium battle unless Adamu and Howes come together. But Weisenberger and Makiyupi aren't interested in that. They are focusing entirely on their own battle. Julian Weisenberger, he's misjudged that braking point once or twice already into turn 10. Doesn't do so this time, but remains where he is. But has he got that extra bit in him to try and get past Makiyupi? We will see. I've said his name about 100 different ways, so in the broadcast, my apologies there, Yuha. But here we go once again, coming through turn 3. Damu and Howes. Now Howes gets the momentum, he gets the slipstream. Oh, is that a tiny opportunity there? I don't think it was on the inside line through 4 and 5. But that's Howes having a look at the inside at turn 6. Hasn't got the momentum. Oh, that was a big old wiggle from Adamu. Can he get the momentum down? Can he burn whatever battery he's got left? They're side by side. I can't remember which one is which. They're both 51. Oh, wow. As they box a BMW on the way down, but there's a lock up there from, I think that was Adamu. That's Howes due to one mistake and a backmarker BMW, just wrong place, wrong time for Adamu. Jack Howes has finally managed to get that position back. Can he hold it for another couple of laps?
Yeah, that was brilliant there. Just forced Adamu into looking at making that mistake as Jerome Mitchell gets well out the way of the pair of them. Wisely so, I think, at the final corner there. So Adamu will fight back with anything he's got left, but has he got anything left then with 2 minutes left to go? Meanwhile, Weisenberger still refusing to give up, and Maki Yupi has just got to keep that yellow Mustang planted in the middle of the road, not leave any room for the black Mustang to slip up the inside into the hairpin here as they approach then. And again, Weisenberger late on the brakes, but Maki Yupi knows exactly where his rival Weisenberger is strong, and he's just responding to it in all the right ways. Very impressive defensive driving.
Absolutely so. And these two, like I say, have been glued together for the entire race. Before and after both pit stops, they have never been more than about 5 seconds apart. But Maki has timed his attack brilliantly well. Weisenberger hasn't yet been able to reclaim that position. Less than a minute and a half to go before the checkered flag is presented, ready for Jimmy Menard, or currently Jimmy Menard, we should say. But this battle for second has not abated at all. Howes has not been able to break away from just Francesco Adamu, but can Adamu, has he got anything left in the tank? Is there any virtual energy left? Is there any tyres left? Is there any energy left in the driver? Goodness me, it's all come down. It was all down to that, just one mistake, just Adamu wrong-footed, probably helped by the fact that there was a BMW in the way. But again, no one hit anyone, but Howes perfectly timed it, forced that mistake, and Adamu is now having to play catch-up, but with no real time to do anything about it. Jack Howes dumps the battery on the exit of turn 16, gives himself half a second. That's going to prevent Adamu from making a move into turn 1, not unless he absolutely...
And this is the final lap as well.
Yes, final lap, so it's all or nothing. Do or die. Feast or famine for Francesco Adamu.
Here we go. It looks like he might have to settle for third then, but none of that whatsoever will be bothering Jimmy Menard, who has driven an absolutely sublime race. Took pole position, lost it at the start to Martin Mergeli and Jack Howes, but fought his way back past the both of them. Had an amazingly set up car. Has clearly been doing all his homework in the week leading up to the race. Oh, a little bit squirrely through nets there, but it doesn't matter. One more corner to go, and Jimmy Menard is going to take the first endurance victory of the Gold Split season here in the XRL Esports VMS Pro Series by Coach Dave Academy across the line, and it's Jimmy Menard that wins the 2.4 hours of Fuji. Here come Yuki Makiyupi and Julian Weisenberger. It is Makiyupi that holds on to 5th. Meanwhile, we wait now for Giovannini, who is somewhere out on track, looking to take his first win in the GT3 class here. But here comes Jack Howes and Francesco Adamu. It's a run to the line. Adamu is half a second behind, but it's too far back. He has lost that second position to Jack Howes. Our championship leader stays on top in the overall points, but he is beaten soundly by Jimmy Menard, as here comes William Giovannini, who's going to take a superb first victory.
It was Giovannini that played a part in the Adamu and Howes battle by just simply being there. Oh, and that is an Eric Peugeot. So it's difficult to tell if they lose the rear wing on the Peugeot because it's so low down on the body. But Giovannini then flashing the lights. You have every right to be happy about that. Your winner of the GT3 class is William Giovannini in the BMW. Second is Bischoff in the Ferrari. And third is going to be Barkley in the Mustang. Kabaki will have a bit of a distant fourth. But Makiopi already over the line. There is Adrian Kabaki, only 4 of the GT3s on the lead lap to the GT3 leader of Giovannini. Wow, what a race it has been. Fuji is such an amazing track, and once again it has delivered as Kabaki, our last car to cross the line and seal his 4th position. Well driven from our surviving drivers.
Yeah, definitely a good day to drive a Ferrari, isn't it? Second in GT3 and then all 4 places locked out in Hypercar. So, yeah, certainly the Scuderia in Maranello are going to be celebrating that one. But yeah, nonetheless, certainly is going to mix up the championship in an interesting way, isn't it? A fantastic 2.4 hours. That first stint was so unpredictable, and it set us up brilliantly for what followed, didn't it?
Yeah, it certainly did. So without, or sorry to say, before any Stewart's intervention, this is how the GT3 contingent looked. William Giovannini, absolutely flawless victory, 94 laps, exactly as predicted, for the 46 BMW. Then it is Marco Bischoff in the Ferrari in second, Nico Barkley in the Mustang third, Adrian Kabaki in the BMW 4th, and Juha Mäki-Jopi winning that endless duel between himself and Julian Weissenberger for 5th position, Nick Daly in the Ferrari in 7th, Beljois Nito in 8th position on the Aston, and Jerome Mitral in the Cadillac masquerading as a Corvette in 9th to be our last finishing at GT3. We lost in the course of the race Liam Rance from the GT3 class. We lost also Eric Nonenmacher in the Ferrari fairly early on due to an incident with him. And that is our hyperclass contingent. So again, 106 laps, again as predicted. Jimmy Menard timed his last attack to perfection, wins in the end by 25 seconds, but could have been more, but didn't need to be. Jack Howes, that fabulous duel with himself and Francesco Adamu coming his way in the end. Adam Saspler did what he could to close in on the podium battle, but in the end it settles for 4th. Lucas Kreuzer, the lead Toyota, in 5th. Saturn Sobers in 6th position. Barnabas Fazekas, the lead Peugeot, in 7th. Roman Freyrum in the Sol Cadillac in 8th. Olivier Demillions in 9th, with Marvin Butson in 10th position. With Stefan Köhler, the Sol Alpine, in 11th. We lost, I'm very sad that we lost Martin Mergley from a strong top 5 spot in the end, but he retired the Porsche in the Hyperclass. I said it did it again. Hypercar class. What a race.
Yeah, indeed it was. I think everyone's a little bit exhausted from that one because nobody seems to want to talk about their races. So it's a shame. I was at least hoping to hear from Jimmy Menard and William Giovannini. But yeah, I think there's so many we could talk to who had really, really exciting races. So that's always a good sign of a healthy gold split, isn't it? While we're waiting, now might be another good time to plug some ads for our sponsors then, including probably most prominently for the gold split is the Coach Dave Delta Academy, which sponsors the what used to be called the Contender Series, now the Pro Series, but it's the premier setup and driver analysis platform available on Le Mans Ultimate, Assetto Corsa Competizione, iRacing, and more. So remember to click the live description if you want to get started there. I think we're also sponsored by BP Tuning, who sponsor the Contender Series, which is the silver split as well. But that's going to be on another day, so there's no need to plug that just yet. Just to know, there's a link to that in the description as well, if you are so inclined. But anyway, Chris, highlights from that. I think that first stint, the hypercar battle between Martin Mergley, Jimmy, and Jack was absolutely exceptional. And then, of course, Francesco getting into the mix from the second stint onwards was a lot of fun, with him just losing out on second at the end there. That was pretty excellent. For GT3, I think it was really all about the top 4 positions, apart from Liam Rance sadly being hit by the hypercar and taken out. It was pretty much settled, and the main battle was Mäki-Jopi versus Weissenberger, wasn't it? So yeah, I think both of those were really, really fun, and we have actually got a few people that do want to talk to us, and that is Jack Howes and Jimmy Menard. Shall we talk to our race winner first?
By means, drag them up. Jimmy Menard, are you with us?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm only just catching my breath now. Tell us how you're feeling out of that, because you had a lot to do, certainly in the first half of the race, and then you sailed off into the sunset.
Yeah, in the first part of the race, close to the hard in my left side, it was a bit difficult to get the tire ready. And when the tire get ready, it was a lot better, and I was a bit free to push, and all the race was managed. So I'm happy with my pace, and that's it.
Well, and so you should be, because your timing on your, particularly at the end of the race, and you just to get that leading position and then sail away was absolutely superb. But how are you feeling? That must be absolutely exhausting to run a race that long, completely on your own, no driver stints. The only gaps you get in the pits are the pit stops. How are you feeling after that?
Yeah, I think very great. So I'm happy with a pre-endurance, if I can tell this, because it's nearly a 3 hour race. So I'm happy with me and my mental. So it's good. I had a bit of contact in the first part with Jack, but it's okay. It's a hard battle for him, so it's okay.
Yeah, Jimmy, it was a very very exciting battle with Jack Howells in those first two stints, especially. Was there ever temptation to pit early in the first stint to try and jump, or were you worried about having to compromise on fuel essentially if you did that? Was it always the plan to run as long as you did? Because Jack ended up pitting a lap earlier than you. Did that make a difference in the end?
He didn't pit a lap earlier.
No, it was the same lap. It was the same lap. I apologize.
Okay, yeah. I just have a bad manage at the start, so I was it was very tight to get the lap, and I decided to not get the risk and pit one lap before the other. And after it was all managed, and it's okay. I finished the race, so it's good.
Absolutely. And you finished it a very dominant 23, 24 seconds ahead in memory serves. So obviously after finishing P7 in Imola, this has put you right at the front in the
Yeah.
championship hunt. So obviously next race up is a sprint one, not quite as long as this in Bahrain. Are you excited about
Yeah, I don't very like Bahrain, but it's okay.
that? I know
And
what you mean.
on Imola, I choke my quali, and I cut my last lap. So I started P11, I think. And with the traffic on Imola, it's very difficult to be back on the podium. But the pace was here, but I start too far off the top three.
Right then, congratulations on your first win in the gold split, Jimmy, and we
Yeah,
hope it's
thanks.
the first of many here in the Virtual Motorsport Series. That was a spectacular drive today, and thanks for coming to talk to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Right then, so as we let Jimmy Menard celebrate victory, he seemed very, very satisfied with that, and justifiably so. We got the man who finished second, the man still in the lead of the championship, Jack Howells, waiting to talk to us. So, Chris, let's let him in and hear what he has to say.
Excellent stuff. Right, Jack Howells, are you with us?
Hello, how's it going?
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
very good. Yeah, we're just catching our breath from that one. But so you're gonna have to talk us through this. So you start right at the front. Mergedy gets a start of the gods. You run your own race, and then you've got it all. You seemingly have it all in hand. Then what happened?
Yeah, I had a really bad quali. Shouldn't have started P6. I should have been at the front with Jimmy. So that was one bad thing. Had a really good start. Got up to the top three. Took the lead. I think Jimmy took left side hards, so he was slow at the initial phase of that stint. whereas I had all mediums, so my tyres dropped off towards the end. But the goal was to keep Jimmy behind me, get in the pits, then copy his strategy to put hards on the left. But as I went in the pits, I selected all the tyres apart from the front right. So I double stinted a tyre that does about 40% a stint. So safe to say I had no pace in the middle stint. I had to eventually just let Jimmy go because Francesco was catching. So I thought I need to, sort of settle for P2. So that was annoying. And then got to the pit stops. I think all good there. I don't remember anything bad. And then, I thought, right, final push. I'm going to put mediums on because the temps were dropping. And I got taken out by a Corvette. So, dropped me to P4, then had to battle my way through. Had really good battles with Adam Saplar and Francesco Adamu. Really good battles with them. Really enjoyed it. Just unfortunate, really. It was. I really enjoyed the race, but made a couple of silly mistakes that put me in shitty positions, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the moment that we saw you closing in on Francesco, and then that duel. Talk us through. You were there. He was defending. You were there. He was defending, and then just that one moment with Giovannini suddenly gave you that one chance. But even then, you had to give you everything you had. Again, from our perspective, to get past Francesco. Again, talk us through it from your side.
Yeah, I was so like I said in the final stint, I went to all mediums because the temps were dropping. I noticed Francesco kept that hard from the front left, so I thought I'm either going to have an advantage or his tires won't drop off and mine will a bit. So it was all depending on the temps there, but it was clear I had the pace at the end. And it was just really good battle with Francesco. He's a really good driver. I've raced with him a couple of times now. It's actually the first time we've raced together and his pedals haven't disconnected, so that's a success. So that's quite a good success there. But just really good battle. I think that GT3 was almost in the way, but I think Francesco just went a little bit too deep. I had the outside line, so I had a lot better line, and he just went super deep and came underneath him, and just managed to get past him. But really good battle. I really enjoy battling Francesco. I think we're very similar on pace, so it's just really good. Really enjoyed it.
It was certainly a good, amazing spectacle from our side. Any questions, Ed?
Not too many. Jack, obviously, winner of the first race, and this one didn't quite go to plan, but you did a great recovery drive. So it really shows, despite that mistake you made in the first stop, that it's important never to give up because it's despite appearances a very long championship. Certainly, some of the races are longer than others. How are you feeling about going back to sprint at Bahrain? Do you think that's going to suit you a bit better? Because it felt like the endurance format, you got to the front very quickly early on, and I think part of you probably wishing this race was only about an hour rather than 2 hours 40 minutes. So.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I mean, it was just a small mistake. It's like I shouldn't have been in P6. I forgot to change the front right tire. To be fair, I thought I might have been able to catch Jimmy towards the end, but getting spun by the Corvette giving me a bit of damage kind of put me back. But no, I enjoyed it. Just got to review the race, make sure I don't make these mistakes again. And go into the next one with a better state of mind.
Well, you certainly put on a great show for us today, Jack, and congrats on still maintaining that championship lead, even though the race didn't quite result in victory this time around. But I'm sure there's many more podium appearances to come for you, and we look forward to interviewing you them at the end of them.
Lovely. Thank you so much, guys.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much. And a well-deserved podium, Jack Howells.
Thank you.
Who else is waiting in the wings, Ed?
Nobody apart from James Huff, who runs the league. So that's it. None of our GT3. William Giovannini is probably way too busy chugging down champagne and celebrating. And why shouldn't he? That's another Italian on the podium, and not just on the podium, but on the top step as well in the BMW, despite the man in the Italian car, the German driver, finishing behind him, as was pointed out in the chat. But definitely a great day for Giovannini in his quest in the championship, because it means he does jump Weisenberger, and I think he also jumps Marco Bischoff, who was obviously 6 points ahead of him going in. But if I just work this out right, the difference between first and second is 39 points to 28 points, which is definitely more than 6. So yes, I think I feel confident saying Giovannini is our new GT3 championship leader.
Wow. That is going to be as the season progresses, this is going to be a superb championship battle. And we very much hope that you lovely people watching along either live or post-event will join us for the remainder of the season to see how this pans out.
Yeah,
It
we
is
should
a
tease what's coming next as well, Chris, before we go off.
yes,
Because
absolutely so.
we got the Contender Series sprint race, their second round of the season at Portimao. That's on this coming Friday. And then on next Sunday, in a week's time, we have got the second round of the Platinum Split, which is our top drivers, of course. Fabio Grigoletto, Jene Simoncic looking to do battle once again with the likes of James Baldwin and Michi Hoyer as well. And then GT3, it's Prendergast trying to defend that crown from the likes of Luke Whitehead, Remy Delorme, Sebastian Wunsch and company as well. So that is all to play for. That's at Fuji as well. So see this as if you thought today was good, that's a prelude, a taster for the first platinum endurance race of the season at Fuji, which I'm sure is going to be even more exciting and certainly better attended, because of course Easter Sunday you can't expect everyone to show up when everyone's got to have their Easter dinner, I guess, and the eggs at the end of it.
Yep. So very true. So the next round for the Pro Gold Split is Bahrain in 2 weeks' time. As it says, plenty. Indeed, yes, in 2 weeks' time. So we will. We look forward to seeing you all for that event, as well as the other races that Ed has mentioned. Plenty of racing here for VMS as the weeks go on. We look forward to seeing you then. Until next time, thank you very much, and good night.